tracc.eu SRO Esports Qualifier, today nestled in the glorious Belgian hills at Spa-Francorchamps. First things first, bit of housekeeping. Unfortunately, due to a limited number of sign-ups today, the race length has been adjusted in agreement between the race organisers and our competitors today. So instead of our usual 4-hour affair that we had at our previous event, we are now looking at a 2-hour race, which should still give our competitors a good chance to show off their skills over a longer period. Today my name is Dirty Kohai, one of the VTubers that are out there. You might have heard me last time around. I'm joined by Amethyst VTube and Bang Greg as well. Say hello.
Hello there.
Hello there.
Right, Spa-Francorchamps, one of those tracks that we all know. Some of us have a bit of a love-hate relationship. What do you think of the chances are with the racing today?
For me, Spa always produces great racing. It's a long track with multiple different corners and different styles of driving. Of course, Arushan Radeon is one of the well-known spots where some people are trying to go too wide there. Not every time it works, but yeah, it's fun to watch and it's fun to drive.
I agree with that. The track is fun to drive and also great to watch for races because it produces great racing, especially in the higher speed section.
And it's amazing for multi-class racing as well. Of course, one of the oldest tracks as well. It has a huge history. And like I said, very well known at this point.
Green light, go, go, go.
Yes. Spa is one of those that is known both in fame and infamy, in equal measure.
Yeah. Opened on August 1921, so 103 years ago. So one of the oldest tracks that are on in this game, and if we go to F1 on the F1 calendar as well.
Yeah, although not in its original layout, probably for the best, looking at some of the safety records.
I think then out of like a one lap would be around like probably 10 minutes or something. I don't know how long the old version was anymore, I don't have it in mind. But I think it would be then an even longer race.
The older version
lap
was
times.
Yeah, the older version was twice the size of this track. It was 14 kilometers. This one is 7.
So around then like around 5 minutes or something like that then for one lap.
Yeah. Yeah, looking at the layout, it's good that they have the modern layout now, because that doesn't look fun at all. And of course there is multiple layouts still. You have the Grand Prix layout, which I think we are racing on, and then MotoGP has their own as well. Which is a little bit shorter.
Yes. Although, one thing I say is that I can never get settled on what the exact corner names are, as they've gone through so many in its iterations over the years and decades. As we see the Daniel Solon speed his way through Blanchimont towards the bus stop chicane. I'm probably calling the bus stop chicane wrong, but I do apologise. It's just what it's stuck in my head as.
No, I think it's actually called the bus stop chicane.
Yeah, I can check.
I mean, it's just that things have been changed so much over the years, but we should, as we start to...
In the official, they call it the X bus stop chicane, so I have no idea.
As we see Daniel Solon power down through La Source hairpin towards the infamous Eau Rouge Radeon. So initially called due to the, I think, the red tinted river running beneath it.
Yeah,
up through Radeon onto the long camel straight after a slight kink in the corner. Cars reaching, what, 250 plus kilometers an hour?
Yeah. Some cars can
Down-
do 70.
Yeah. Through Malmedy we go. Surprisingly challenging corner, Malmedy, and that whole section. Into Rivage or Bruxelles, take your pick. That's what I mean. I can never choose on the corner, never decide on what the official term is for some of these corners. Through X, No Name, Speaker's Corner, it's had so many over the years. Another downhill run into the mid-high speed Puon. Almost like a double apex in some cars, but the speed you can carry through there if you get it right is really good.
Into the Fogness chicane.
Oh yeah, the fun news, yeah.
Yeah, hold up. Yeah, this is the high-speed third sector. Which can be
Joyous run.
dangerous.
Yeah, from Curve Porfrere all the way down to the bus stop chicane through coming up towards Blanchimont. One of the most challenging corners, deceptively challenging corners out there in racing, I'd argue, because you either sacrifice a lot of your setup for the high speed stuff like that, which can give you a lot of instability, or you can focus on the high speed section with a lot of downforce but sacrifice your ultimate top end. So it'd be interesting to see what our competitors put down lap time wise today, as we've got 2:17.7 as our first lap from Seoul in the Honda NSX. I nearly said Civic. My brain isn't working today. Forgive me.
We are racing TCRs today.
Yeah.
And back to Blanchimont is sometimes when the car is set up wrong, it's just so unstable in there, and it can end the race. Even though it's a full throttle corner, you just turn a little bit, but still wrong setup, and the car will just throw you away, and you will hit the wall.
Some cars, like the BMW M4 I drove it around Spa and Blanchimont and Eau Rouge, it could take, in my opinion, take the corners flat out without issues. But in some different cars, like the 992 Porsche or the Ferrari 296, I noticed that it's really hard. You really have to get to the because you just miss by a bit. You just have to lift in the corner.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff comes down to setups around Spa, which is whilst although it's a very well-known and well-driven track, it still offers a lot of challenge and complexity to drivers across all types of motorsport, because you've got high-speed corners like Blanchimont wherein you are straddling the line with your setup. I found it myself during the Spa 24 hours. In our practice sessions, we had to compromise a good bit on the setup because a couple of us just could not get through Blanchimont in our BMW without issues ourselves. However, a lot of our competitors today seem to have absolutely nailed their setups, because I've not seen much instability, if any, in their cars. But we'll have to see how that ties them over during the race.
Can we talk about the spot on before? It was a little bit different because, of course, we had changing conditions for that race. So the setup for changing conditions is just a whole nother thing.
Yeah. Although I believe our weather forecast today is supposed to be completely dry throughout. I've not actually seen any mention of it myself. The current weather radar coming up to the next 30 minutes is showing cloudy but clear, from what I can tell. Assuming I'm not being a prude and misreading things.
Yeah, it indeed shows a little bit cloudy, but clear. And I don't think it will change that fast, so I think we are gonna have dry race. Maybe at the end something, but you know, it's summer, it's Belgium, so I think it's gonna be just hot.
Yeah, that's the fun thing with the weather around that region, because Nürburgring's not too far away. And there's a similarly mountainous range, is that you can have glorious summer sunshine 1 minute. Yeah, give it 20 minutes, half an hour, and you can suddenly have a heavy rainstorm come in.
It doesn't even need half an hour. It just can be. It's like something that just spawns there right now. It's just like bam rain.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is
someone
another thing that adds.
And someone who lives near the ring, yeah, we call it the Eiffel weather. It can be
visited.
like, I mean, one time
Sorry.
I think it was 2015, they had to actually stop the race because of hail while the race was happening. It was insane. The weather can be extreme there.
Yeah, I visited the Nürburgring as well. I've yet to visit Spa, although it's not too far from the friends I know in Germany. Like it's a day trip from their part of Germany, but I haven't had the luxury of visiting Spa IRL myself. God, I want to though, just for the fun of it.
Yeah, and if we go back to Rhein and Arouche and Radeon, you really need to slow down a lot there, because of course it's an uphill section, so in the first section there is gonna be standing water then, and if you hit it wrong you just go straight. You can't turn that all.
Absolutely, you'll get puddles on the inside of the corner as the car gets pressed down into the tarmac. However, because of that standing water, you do not have the traction you'd expect in dry, so it's very easy for cars to become unsteady and have incidents, but based on our weather forecast today, it looks crystal clear. Mostly blue, mostly clear skies, nice bit of sunshine, evening weather, evening time of day. Should be quite nice. Should be quite a nice, peaceful drive into sunset, hopefully.
You'll see. For now we see 4 cars going around. Hopefully it will go a little bit higher.
Hopefully the other 3 or 2 cars will join.
Yes, one can hope, because there's been an unexpectedly low turnout for this event, unfortunately. Things happen, conflicts with scheduling conflicts do happen. So it's not unheard of. It's just
in real life, it's always the priority.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, I guess considering the financial investment it takes to go racing, it makes more sense that you don't really want to cancel unless it's absolutely necessary. But at least we got a good example of the cars on offer today. It's not like in some series where you see, what basically boils down to a single spec series. We've got the BMW M4 GT3, as I push the buttons on my end, don't mind me.
I'm also very interested to hear about the NSX lands again on this race today.
And today for cars, we actually see one of the cars that we don't see that often. We now can see it. The NSX. I remember racing against it once or twice.
I raced it for an entire season.
Yeah, and I didn't race that season.
All I can say is, if you get the car set up right, the car feels good, but if you do like one little thing wrong, the car is just... no. Just wants to drive into the wall.
And of course...
I kind of think that goes for any car if the setup is not...
No, the NSX is the worst of them all.
Yeah, and some cars have tendencies, of course, as well.
Yeah, well, I guess that's one of the bonuses of...
the Evo version is even worse because they changed... because they made a problem was in the NSX problem even more worse in the Evo version.
See, admittedly the NSX is not one of the cars I've driven. I'm very much one of those that kicks around in the BMW, for better for worse.
I am a 296 guy, so yeah. Or a Merc one, so yeah.
I'm a 992 guy.
Yeah, different cars. Like I said, every car has their own tendencies.
And that's one of the bonus. Yeah, and that's one of the good things about GT racing in its current form is that each car will have its nuance, its own unique tendencies, yet they'll all be able to, with a little bit of tender loving care by the stewards and stuff, they can all race together and put in competitive lap times, which are less about the cars and more about the drivers.
Exactly.
So it's quite a balancing act that's often well achieved, as we see.
Yeah, and thanks to that, a lot of people can find their own car for their own driving style. Because like I said, it varies a lot. Like every car is a little bit different. Some likes to kill you.
Yeah.
But some are just too understeer and you need to help them to get through corners. So yeah, which I like. So that's why I use the 296 for that. It's amazing in mid-speed corners and a lot of downforce, but the speed on the straights is just lacking there.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we all find when it comes to multi-driver team races, is that it's not just that you can set up the car for one individual person. You have to share the car, and each driver will have their own driving style. It's one thing I think that we had earlier in the year when we did Daytona 24 together. I like a bit more oversteer than you, but obviously it makes sense that we have to find a compromise, a middle ground, so that both drivers can extract their best from the car. It's one of the many challenges with team racing, endurance racing. It's not just one person.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, and sometimes when you have 6 people in the car, it's really hard to find a middle ground anyways. So sometimes just the faster, in quotation marks, faster people need to, sacrifice their own style to help the slower, in quotation marks again, guys, so they can feel comfortable and do the laps that they need to do.
Indeed. Although, shooting back to our current qualifiers, we have the number 69 McLaren currently in pole with a 2 minute 16.435, a good 0.3 clear of their next competitor. The number 91 Mercedes, unless the things are all broken on my end again, which wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Apologies if that's any of the teams watching. I do believe that my sim is set up correctly, so apologies if I get any team names or numbers wrong.
No, it's correct. 91 is P2. Then
Yeah.
it's the number 74 Honda NSX, which is now in pits. Maybe some setup changes or fuel changes. And then in P4 we have the BMW M4, number 2.
Yeah. Maybe not the fastest over a single lap with BMW from my own driving experience, depending on the driver, of course, because, sometimes some drivers can extract more from a setup. But I'd argue one of the most consistent cars over a long run. Maybe not in terms of raw pace, but you can be so consistent with the BMW from my personal experience. We'll have to see if the number 2 team can really extract that throughout the race, even in its shortened form of 2 hours today.
And it is a really safe car as well. Everyone can kind of drive it from all the styles.
Oh, you haven't had some of the setups I've driven.
Yeah, the only thing I've driven it in Sebring, which was, as we know, wet.
Yeah.
Which was really wet, and we don't talk about Sebring. Where our engine exploded twice. I have a similar thing with N24 when our engine exploded twice as well in the TCR, so yeah, sometimes it's just like that, and everyone is saying your first time endurance racing, something is gonna happen and it's gonna go bad anyways, but just enjoy it.
Yeah, that's the thing with endurance racing. As you start to get into it, the first races, don't expect to hit the ground running. Someone that's done it for a while, you can't expect to hit the ground running and everything to be perfect. I know that from my very first endurance race, my very first team event, where in the MX-5 of all cars, I was the last person in the car to the end of the race. What did we miss? Did I miss something?
No, nothing.
Okay.
It's like, no.
Forgive me then. But I was the last person in the car, and I was basically told by the team, just bring it home, bring it to the end. And in my naivete and lack of experience, I was like, no, I can unlap us from the car ahead to gain an extra position. Like, trying to unlap ourselves from P5 to then maybe challenge. But I drove too hard and yeah, unfortunately we ended up in P12 after a mistake on my part. But these things happen. This is why a good thing with a good team and a good group of drivers is that you'll encourage each other, but you also keep each other in check, for better or worse.
For my first endurance race, it was 4 hours of Spa in ACC. It's one of the first track events for me, and my wheel disconnected. When I went into the car, stopped working, then I lost all force feedback, so I drove one stint without the force feedback. So yeah, it never goes well. First time never goes well. We at least finished the race, but yeah, never goes well.
Well,
And
that's
in those
just it with racing that everyone often forgets. To finish first you must finish. And honestly, depending as the longer the race gets, the finishing is more the key goal than actually making positions. Because you have to be there in the end to take advantage of any shenanigans.
and sometimes in longer races that are not sprints, just like doing laps and not being on the top pace can still win you the race or get you like top position or anything like that.
I mean, consistency over a longer run is key. Although we've only got a shorter 2-hour race day instead of the usual 4, that's still 2 hours where a lot of things can happen, and you need to hit your marks consistency. Maybe not to the meter, but if you can keep your lap timers within like half a second of each other, lap after lap, there's a good chance that should anything befall somebody else, that consistency will put you in a good spot to take advantage. So sometimes, you know, it's like the old adage of the hare and the tortoise. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
And sometimes you don't even need to be on your top pace anyways, just drop to like 85% and just do laps, and sometimes that is enough to get you in the positions that you would never think you will get into.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As currently sitting in qualifying, not much has changed so far on the lap times. Still the 69 McLaren of Iverson with a 2:16.2 now, slowly increasing their gap to the nearest car behind, the 91 AMG Mercedes, with 16.797. However, 20 minutes to go of qualifying. There's still plenty of time for things to change, some small setup tweaks. Maybe the drivers need to get in their groove and just find that little bit to give them a small advantage.
Yeah, it's a long qualifying, so and the track is optimum, so it's not gonna really get better. But yeah, some people take a long time to get into the groove, so yeah, they just need to do lap after lap, and maybe one of them is gonna be the fastest one. And yeah, for me, I don't like doing qualifying at all. I always let it to do for my always teammates are doing it for my endurance events. And I'm not.
Sorry.
No, and I'm not a starter as well, really. I like finishing the races. Yeah, the start is like the most hectic point of the race. And when you have like 45 cars, if we go back to like the 24 hours of Spa, it was 48 cars, I think. And if you have 48 cars and you're starting like 25th, you are in the middle of everything. So yeah, it's stressful. So that's why I never start the races. Even though for Glen 6 hours, or was it IMSA Glen? One of those I was starting, and it was fine because it was wet, and most people still don't know how to drive on wet, so...
Yeah. Although you say that although you say this, you mentioned the end of the race. As I found out during the most recent endurance race I did, sometimes even the final hour can be just as challenging and spicy. Unfortunately, there was an incident involving a couple of competitors ahead of us, which really was not acceptable levels of driving. I shan't go into the specifics because I do not approve of the way that event transpired. But it's the most stressful parts of any race, typically, that I've always found are the start, the first time through any traffic, be it single class or multi-class, because the larger the field, the more evident the disparity between different people's pace, which is only natural, and it's not a slight against any drivers. It's just a natural thing. But also the final hour, colloquially called between my other friend group as like the silly hour, because it's like, oh, I've got 60 minutes or so to make up for what I didn't do early on in the race. So desperation kicks in. Also, some people call it desperation hour. So things can certainly heat up towards the end of the race. Nothing is over until the checkered flag falls.
Yeah, that's exactly what. Yeah, sometimes the last hour there is nothing to race for. Sometimes you have just what happened in our Spa race. I think we were in top 20, top 15, I don't know, and we had a car that was 3 laps behind and a car that was 2 laps ahead, so we literally had nothing to fight for, just do laps and hope that they will like crash each other or someone will crash them. So sometimes the final hour can be chill, that's why I like to finish, like for the Le Mans race, which we did for charity. That was an easy last hour. Oh, 2 hours and a half, for me at least. That's what I call one stint. But yeah, long endurance is where the fun is for me. I don't really like sprint races.
Well, another bonus with endurance racing is that sometimes, like, with your stint, you can just go out and enjoy the car, enjoy the track, enjoy the just general experience. Sometimes, like, when I was doing the Spa-24, it was a case of, like, we weren't fighting for much because there was an unfortunate incident, but I was just like, well, I'm going to drag this car to the finish line, whether it kills me or not. You know, the old never give up mentality.
Exactly.
And it was just like, well, I'm not fighting for anything, but I just want to enjoy driving the car. And sometimes that's one of the things you do have the luxury of having in an endurance race.
That's indeed true. But you need to have a car that is actually, you know, that is actually enjoyable, not like us for our 24 hours of Spa.
Indeed.
Yeah, the Corvette is a car. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah. Right. As due to the smaller grid size state, we have expedited our qualifying session. We're now ready to do our grid rundown. So, on pole today is the number 69 McLaren, driven by it's not in starting. Apologies if I butcher your name. Very unique livery there, but closely behind we have the number 91 Mercedes AMG GT. I never remember the full name of that car. I do apologise. Driven by Lewis, started with the. I can't speak today. Apologies. Third, we have D Solon in the Honda NSX. Very impressive performance last time round at a previous event. Seeing if they can capitalise on that today in their race trim. And in fourth, we have the number 2 BMW M4 GT3. However, although there was like a roughly 1 second delta between our competitors today in qualifying, will that translate in the race? Will they be able to really extract the best out of the car consistently? Because, like we were saying earlier, 1 lap pace is one thing, but being able to consistently put down the lap times is something entirely different.
Those are 2 different disciplines. Hot lapping versus, you know, just driving the car on full fuel tank as well. Going like 70 minutes, I think, is the stint here. Maybe they will do hour and hour, but normally when we go long, or the race is longer than 2 hours or an hour, it is full fuel tank should do like 70 minutes here. And that's the stint timer for ACC anyways, so you can't really do more than that anyways.
See, that's one of the things not being an ACC regular, is that there is a upper drive time limit in ACC. I'm used to only having the minimum drive time.
Yeah.
In other games.
It is
As
for
we see
one.
that car slowly roll away, although for a full formation lap, but that should give our drivers plenty of time to warm up the cars, the tyres, prepare themselves for a start. Yes, there's only a few of them, however, means that there's still, should anything bad befall anybody, there's,
Interesting.
it makes that competition that little bit tighter.
If when you warm up your tires, are you dragging the brakes or are you doing the classic vehicles?
I'm not honestly too sure what I do in ACC. I think it's a combination of both. How effective it is, I don't know.
Yeah, for me it's just dragging the brakes the whole way. Just having like 25% of the brake still on, and on the end of the lap, well, here I would start doing it later because this is just such a long formation lap. But for shorter tracks, just through the whole time, just drag the brake, and it should give you ideal temperatures and ideal pressures as well, which is really important here. Is the pressure of the tire. Not really that the temperature, but the pressure needs to be correct for the car to do everything you want it to do.
Yes, especially if you're trying to extract the ultimate lap time. Am I correct in thinking that some of the curbs around here can be very aggressive and abusive to the tyres?
Yeah, they can drop tire pressure really fast if you abuse too much of them.
I guess it wouldn't take much for somebody to get a puncture and force them to change their strategy depending on how severe it is.
I don't remember really that happening. Well, the finale of V-Track it happened when, yeah, there more things happened there. But yeah, Isaac, who won the race, got a puncture, and then I got disconnected from the first place. So Isaac won anyways. Still mad about that. Thank you, ACC. But yeah, I saw it happen just I think once or twice that someone got a puncture in the race. So you need to like really have a lot of curbs and you need to abuse them. I think Misano would be one of the tracks where you actually need to like abuse the curb, so there might something happen. Here I don't think really something like that would happen.
I suppose because I do forget that a lot of the curbing here is banked and built in such a way where you can use it.
Yeah, no
To
sausages
extract
or
the little ultimate.
no sausages or like hard curbs. It is banked, so here it will help you.
Yeah. Although hopefully today we don't have any technical issues like you mentioned. Just like the real world, sometimes cars befall technical issues. We had that in our last event where a couple of people unfortunately disconnected. You see such unfortunate things in the real world where cars can retire due to technical faults that are unfixable in the amount in race trim. But one could hope today that the competitors that we do have, everything goes plain sailing for them as we go through Longchamp now, slowly getting ready to start. I believe we start after La Source here.
Indeed, first two turns are the Arush and Radeon. So it's all. That's why I never want to start in any race of Spa, because we are going to the most dangerous place, bunched up. Here only 4 cars, but when you have 40 cars on the grid and you go bunched up through Arush and Radeon, there is gonna be a problem in there. It's gonna be death.
Indeed.
And pain.
Wow.
I think it's gonna be a really not that. I hope it won't be an incident race. I think it's gonna be with 4 cars. It's gonna be hopefully close racing, but clean racing.
Yeah,
that's what we always want.
That's what we're hoping to see today.
Exactly. Oh, they're going through the
As
press
we go
corner,
through
but last corner.
La Source hairpin. Getting ready to go green. Cars are turning up on the field.
And if you get here drive penalty, it's gonna hurt a lot because the pit lane is very long here.
Yes, the endurance pit lane. Very painful, however. Coming across the start-finish line, we are green for the 2 hours SRO Esports Qualifier, organised by Track Sim Racing, tracc.eu. As we go over Radeon, Mercedes with a very good start but everyone's still bunched together fairly close.
Oh, and the slipstream. Ooh,
Yeah.
they're breaking the slipstream. Trying not to go over on the outside, and the NSX is also still there.
Or leaving just enough room for the 69 McLaren. Surprisingly tight start.
Everyone's still with each other.
So we'd see. Yeah.
Even for
maybe
gonna be fun. Yeah, the
just
McLaren lost
not a lot.
Oh, my apologies, continue.
You're fine. No. Say, sometimes you take the small L's in racing to gain a bigger advantage overall, because maybe not as effective here as it would be in other sims. I cannot speak on experience. The 69 Iverson might be able to do a tiny bit of fuel saving behind the Mercedes AMG.
That's the thing
the cars
for Spa, and this car specifically. I think this is the only car still that doesn't have fuel tank POPs, which is weird. But I think this has like the whole fuel tank, which is 120 liters, if I am correct. And you really don't need to fuel save with a McLaren. You just go full on, like 70 minutes, which is like the
very good run through the launch point, very close, looking up the inside into the bus stop chicane, but not quite close enough to make a move up the inside. Although this Eunice goes a little bit deep. Iverson looking for a sneaky cutback, and the NSX behind also seeing if they can get a sneaky early advantage. Who said that you needed a big grid for close racing? A lot of very competitive drivers here, even though there's only a few of them today. Gives us more a chance to focus on the skill sets that these drivers do have. Because sometimes it's meters that make the difference.
Yeah, and sometimes bigger grids means more crashing and stuff like that. That's why sometimes when you have huge grids, the race can be, let's say, chopped up when like the leaders are just too far and not a lot of is happening. Here there was no incident first lap, so
Moza makes a very late move up the inside of the NSX there, and there's a little bit of door banging there. A little bit of an aggressive pass there from Muath Musa, perhaps.
We will see what Stuart thinks about that.
Yeah.
Because yes, we have live stewarding for this race, so we're gonna see what they think in like 5 minutes. Maybe faster.
Yes.
And now, as I said, the grid is now splitting up into two pairs, so we'll see how that will go. That's exactly what I said. When there are bigger grids, there are more crashes, more bumping, and then the gaps are just getting bigger and bigger. I wanted to say that here it might not happen, but as we saw, there was some banging, and now the gap is getting bigger. So now we have two pairs of racing here. You'll see what the McLaren will do. The McLaren is really fast on the straight, so here he should get really close to the Mercedes, which we can see already that he's gaining.
Slowly bringing that delta down between them, yet still not close enough for a move here. Yeah, a little bit of damage on the side of that BMW from the door banging, but we'll see if that actually has any long-lasting effect on them. GT cars, although not made for door banging like maybe you've seen in the series, they can mostly take a beating, but not without compromise. So you can get good aggressive racing, but there is a line to a lot of this stuff.
Some of the cars are built like a tanks. If we go to different GT3s, that McLaren almost snapped through Radeon. Just if I see the correction on the steering wheel. So I don't think this is gonna be the run that the McLaren wants. It's gonna be cool. They will still be close to each other, and the McLaren will try to find another way. But back to it, some GT3s are really built like a tanks. Like if we go to let's say, different sims, the Corvette can take a straight hit and be not damaged at all, which happened to me a lot of times through Glen 6 hours, IMSA Glen, and the 24 hours of Spa. We hit the nose of the car a lot of times, and nothing happened to it. It's like it's built like a tanker, kinda. And on the other side, if we go again to other sim with TCRs, they are built like a paper. You will hit a little bit, and you have wheel damage.
I think it very much depends, like in the real world, how you make contact with another car or any other piece of, I guess, environment around. Because if you make wheel-to-wheel contact, as I've seen both in sim and in real-world racing at the Nürburgring, the 2022 Porsche Cup race that was there as a support race for the ADAC GT Masters, even at lower speeds, like around 100 kilometers an hour, tire-to-tire contact can still be very scary. So it's all dependent on how you hit. As Iverson, again, looking up the inside of Liusnus, apologies again if I'm butchering your surname. I didn't get a chance to ask you for proper pronunciations. Iverson very much trying to put off the number 91 Mercedes, see if they can maybe spook them into a mistake very close through the source hairpin again. Solon has also closed up onto Moza behind in the Honda NSX. Maybe not the most popular car in the series or the sim, but by no means it's competitive here. As the BMW looked rather unsteady up the hill there through Eau Rouge, unless that was just my connection.
Oh, and in front for P1 there is gonna be side-by-side action.
Round the outside, can they make it through? Liusnus just a little bit deeper on the braking, almost like a block pass. Iverson getting a little bit unsteady through the corner again, a little bit slidey on exit. Very much trying to force the pass now as they're getting into their groove, the tyres are warmed up, trying to make some more aggressive passes between one another.
Yeah,
you don't necessarily...
Go for it.
Again, like I was saying, like, it's unfortunate we don't have sort of bigger grid today, but it means we can focus on some of the battles a little easier on our side. Not to say that other battles in a larger field are not worth watching, because they often are. It's always a joy to watch people show off the best of their skills, regardless of what sim or car they're driving.
Yeah, exactly. And we have two pairs of battling here, so...
Indeed.
For now it looks fun, it looks really fun. We'll see if I wanted to call it the Acura, because that's how it's running now, but yeah, the Honda NSX, if they can catch the BMW.
Yeah, I think one bonus of the BMW that I found is that if you get your setup right, it's very good on the mid-corner, which allows you to maintain your momentum through to corner exit. I cannot say about the Honda NSX, as it's not a car I've got much experience with, but I know from my own experience, the BMW, when set up right, it's very good. It's very good at being almost like a momentum car. It's again, Iverson still looking all over the rear of that AMG Mercedes for a pass. Very much wanting to take the lead and see if they can run away with it, but there's no guarantees at this point in time that they can make the pass. Again, looking up the inside of La Source hairpin, very tight, but Mercedes will have the run around the outside. Thought there was going to be contact there, but Iverson just managed to arrest enough speed as we go down the hill again, up towards Eau Rouge Raidillon. Will Iverson be able to get the run they need to get past Liusnus in the Mercedes AMG? A little bit of a wider exit over the top of the hill, through the crest, onto the Camel Straight. Liusnus going defensive, going all the way on the left-hand side. Oh, and now Iverson looking up the inside. Got the 2x2, oh, just got the nose on the inside there. A little bit of door banging as we go through the chicane. Liusnus pushed off the circuit and Iverson takes the lead. A little bit aggressive perhaps, but we'll see what the stewards think if that's worthy of a discussion. I'd say it's all fair and love and racing, a little bit of a door tapping, but not outwardly making it too aggressive and what some would say is a punt to pass. Yeah. Apologies, Amethyst, I was just in the moment there. I do apologise, I go on one when the racing's good.
Yeah. The stewards will definitely see this. We have today's live stewarding, so if people getting a penalty from that, that's gonna be live decided.
Simply a hard-working stewards there. It's not an easy job to do stewarding. I have previously been involved in other leagues with live stewarding, had to do that stuff myself. And no matter what you decide, you are always someone's worst enemy. You cannot win as a steward.
Yeah, whatever you
However,
decide, it's always wrong in someone else's eyes. So
It's a thankless task when you do it, but as if someone ever gets a decision that they don't agree with, God, do you hear about it. As Iverson has managed to increase the delta now between himself and the Mercedes. So the gap between the 69 and the 91 now up to 0.7 seconds. Still sort of in the slipstream range, but maybe Iverson might have the chance to run away and build the gap that they want, like they did in our first round.
and in the meantime, the BMW is catching the Mercedes as well. So we might have a freeway instead of two pairs of battling.
Then don't count NSX out of there yet. Dennis is also pretty close to the bumper of the BMW.
Yeah, Solon all over that BMW, looking for another overtake chance, as they didn't get the best of starts. Moose made rather an aggressive move with that BMW. However, BMW, maybe not the fastest in raw pace, it's very consistent at the car, so maybe that is what Moose is relying on. Not as hot temps as we had in our previous round, so maybe the tyres will last a bit longer, because I definitely saw them struggling with that in round 1 of our esports qualifier.
Yeah, so news for those contacts that we saw, all of them were NF8, so everything clean for now.
It was Mantis Leonzus in the 91 Mercedes AMG getting a little bit wiggly there, right, of Malmedy. Perhaps they maybe took a lot of life out the tyres trying to defend from the McLaren.
Yeah, and the Mercedes is sometimes really hard to control on throttle because, of course, naturally aspirated V8, not a turbo, so all the power is going instantly. So the rear tires will be struggling. And of course, the driving style of the Mercedes, you need to kind of drag it through the corners, which takes again a lot of tire life. So
yeah, I do wonder how a mutual friend of ours, does drive that Mercedes, because I tried it and I, for the life of me, can't understand it.
yeah,
It might just be a picnic issue, to be fair.
it's a break. It is a break.
Yeah. As over the length stretch of this lap, Iverson's managed to build up nearly a second gap on the Mercedes now. So after that slightly aggressive, assertive move in the inside, they've managed to slowly build up the delta, give them a chance to maybe build a gap and show their raw pace.
Yeah, and again back to the friend of ours who said that he would never run the Mercedes in an endurance race ever. That's why every time we run endurances in ACC, we run the Ferrari instead, because it's built more for the endurances. The Mercedes just eats tires, drinks fuel. It isn't ideal for endurances, really.
Well, you say drink fuel. I think a lot of these cars are balanced to have a roughly equal fuel consumption rate. Obviously, with the different engine types, you've got the big, naturally aspirated, growly V8 in the Mercedes. You've got the, highly strong European-style turbo V8 in the McLaren. And the 2 6-cylinders of inline type in the BMW, and I think a V6 in the Honda NSX, both turbocharged. It's, despite that disparity, they're all roughly balanced, have a roughly equal fuel consumption. That way no one's at a massive disadvantage. So, but yeah, that torquey V8 of the 91 Mercedes.
For NSX it is twin turbo V6, which is big engine. But yeah, twin turbo V6. So you get twice the turbo and twice the depth.
Isn't the BMW naturally as well as the turbo?
The Mercedes is, the BMW is inline 6 turbo.
I believe it's two smaller twin turbos on the BMW. Definitely feels like it when it kicks in with a little bit of kick you get from the rear. It almost feels like a naturally aspirated car with the torque that the BMW can deliver with its smaller turbos.
It is indeed a 3-liter straight 6 turbo engine on the BMW. That makes 590 horsepower. Which is insane. But well, all the GT3s are making insane power.
Yeah, they are all balanced together with the mystical, magical balance of performance. The phrase I didn't want to say today because I know that in other circles it elicits lots of groaning from others, but there's a reason these tools exist. It allows these vastly different cars to all race together, so I'd argue it's a necessary evil.
Exactly, and here it's mostly about the weight, not really the power of the engine. I don't think the BOP touches power of the engines, it's mostly weight, so we will see on some tracks just some cars having like a lot of edit, and I think I'm not sure, last time for Spa, I think McLaren got hit like with 35 kilos plus. Yeah.
Although speaking of the McLaren, a bit of a spicy exit into the previous chicane before Malmedy. Forgetting all the names of the corners today. So they brought the delta down by a tenth, but still maintaining roughly a second to the Mercedes. So the gap is growing. Well, they're not growing. It's stable. Sorry. It seems to be the run of the field. It's like Moza's managed to sort of increase the gap to roughly half a second on the NSX, but again, it's still early. Still an hour and 45 to go. Sometimes in a race it takes one small mistake, a little bit too aggressive over the corners. With less cars in the field, it's easier to spot your competitors and proverbial targets, so sometimes you can get in your own head and maybe be a little bit too aggressive, but pray that we don't get anything dramatic.
Exactly, we don't want any crashes for the competitors. We want a clean race and for them to show their speed and their skill without any problems. And yeah, for now it's the number 69 McLaren leading. Then behind it we have the 91 of the Mercedes. P3, number 2 BMW M4, and rounding the grid for today, for now, is the Honda NSX number 74. Everyone is, we again split into the two pairs. The NSX hunting the BMW and the Mercedes trying to hunt the McLaren. We will see if they can manage, and we will see more battling here.
Yeah, well, the number 69 Blue Bulls Racing McLaren were very clearly the class of the field in our previous round. However, the Mercedes there doing just enough, maybe not to keep up with them, but just to keep them honest. That 1 second window could be very advantageous in an endurance race. Yes, 2 hours long, maybe not our longest race that we'll ever see on the calendar compared to some of the others that we see in sim racing and real world racing alike, but sometimes just doing enough just to keep your competitor honest is all that you need, just to get that little bit of pressure of them going, hey, I'm lurking over here, don't get too greedy now. Just that little bit of head game thing that comes in naturally just by you being within that window to your competitor can be just enough.
Yeah, and sometimes the mental warfare is more effective than the speed warfare. When you like fake moves, try to get too close, even though you know, like, you get it, right? Trying to get like too close to the bumper so you can like spook them a little bit, but not touch them at all. And yeah, the mental warfare is really important in racing, specifically in like those long races. If the mental isn't correct, it can lead to mistakes. It can lead to mistakes, and sometimes that can even end the race.
Yeah, I've definitely sort of fallen afoul of that myself in the past. Maybe not in a shorter race today, but certainly some of the longer races. Fatigue is one of the bigger things, and looking at the closeness of our competitors, to be fair, is there's literally a tenth and a half between the top two. A 2:17.7 from the 69 McLaren, and a 2:17. I missed their last lap. My end. 8.45. There's not much in them, so the 91 Mercedes AMD, like I said, just keeping the leader honest, just doing that enough to say, "Hey, I'm still here. Don't forget about me." And sometimes that's all you got to do.
And another thing about the long races as well is the deterioration of the drivers and the silliness that happens during those races. That is like the most fun I ever had if we talk about endurance racing. Which, yeah.
Yeah, admittedly, I'm a sucker for multi-class racing more than any kind of other endurance racing, but even within a single, class field that you get sometimes, like with the Spa-24, you can have a lot of variance, like we see in the real world, which is why in the real world we have our platinum, gold, silver and bronze rated drivers, because people's natural talent and experience will vary dramatically. Not as a slight on anybody, it's just relative levels of experience and ability. Yeah, I think very much the following cars of our two current packs are very much thinking the same thing, just lurking behind the other car saying, "Don't get too carried away, I'm still here," which sometimes in the early part of the race is just enough to play the head games. Just sort of maybe fatigue out your opponent a little bit, just to say, It's very interesting to see how this stuff works.
And the lead is now extended to almost 1.5 seconds, so Iverson looks like he's gonna run away.
Maybe, but it depends how much they took out of their tyres in the early part of this stint, because they was definitely rather wiggly on the throttle through a couple of corners early on. Plus, we don't know if the little door bagging that we've seen has actually given any of our competitors a tiny bit of damage. Be it actual car damage, or maybe they've just thrown them out of their groove slightly.
Yeah,
We'll have to wait and see. If we sort of get into the quieter part of the first stint.
Yeah.
Though it does look like Solon's slowly getting back in their groove with the... Oh. Forgive me. Last time I looked at the delta between Moza and Solon, it was smaller.
Yeah, everything is now starting to space out a bit.
Racing will always naturally ebb and flow. You sort of have the burst of excitement at the beginning as everyone's trying to make certain moves. Then everyone calms down a little bit, finds their groove, just settles in for the longer haul. But we've also got, each car has got another driver to go yet with maybe a slightly different driving style.
Yeah, you'll see how that will go after the driver change, because like you said, not everyone is the same speed, and it can really change your race really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Although, same as before, if any of our drivers that are not currently in the car are wanting to join us for an interview, I wouldn't ask a driving, we wouldn't do some of the stuff that I've seen on other broadcasts where they, like charity events, where they interrupt the drivers as they're driving for an interview. But if any of our competitors, teammates today are willing to come up to the broadcast booth for an interview, feel more than welcome to join one of the voice chats in our Discord, and we can drag you up and ask you some questions about how you're feeling about the race so far. Although 30 minutes in, We're just sort of getting into the groove.
Just still getting started a bit. Like now it's gonna be.
Yeah.
Now they are spaced out. There is not gonna be a lot of bottling, so now it's about the mental state of the, or the mental side of it. That you can just concentrate on yourself, just do lap after lap. Or for some like me, do not think about it at all and just drive.
Just drive the car.
Drive.
Yeah, for me, when I do endurance racing, I need someone to talk to me, or I will go mad in endurance racing. Because for me, when I concentrate too much, I try to push and I try to do fast lap times. When I don't concentrate on the racing and just race or just drive, that's when the consistency comes in for me. So I need someone to talk to me and get my head out of the concentration phase. Of course, for the starts and stuff like that, you need to concentrate because a lot of cars around you, a lot of things happening, maybe multiple crashes in front of you that you need to dodge. But when you are in this stage, the stage that everyone is spaced out, there's not gonna be a lot of overtakes, or you are gonna do a lot of overtakes. Just I don't think about the race. I just talk about random stuff and just drive the car.
Yeah. It's all depending on what the drivers prefer. Sometimes, like you said, it's what I find is someone that admittedly is a little bit neurodiverse. It is about that level of stimulation that you get in your brain where you can focus on your driving, but that is not your sole. It's your primary focus, but not your sole focus. So you're not overthinking about what you're doing. You're not overthinking your inputs. You're not overthinking how do I get this little tenth here in this corner. You're just that right level of stimuli for your brain where you can just find that happy groove to sit in.
Yeah, and another thing is
It's just
we do not get paid for this, so we should just enjoy it for what it is and what we do. That's why I enjoy endurance racing the most, because it's just bunch of people, bunch of friends racing, talking about random stuff, and sometimes those clips from it are diabolical, let's say.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of us do this. I mean, paycheck or not that I would ever turn down anything like that, should I ever be of unacceptable quality to warrant such a paycheck. But it is primarily like the friendships and the relationships we build along the way with this. You have to get along with the people that you're doing this stuff with, as intense and competitive as motorsport can be. Because it is a challenging thing, it is intense. You are trying to perform at your best, but others are also performing at their best as well. So things naturally get competitive and heated, but it does not mean that you cannot build good friendships. It's just part of the parcel. So we do see that the delta now between our leader and P2 is now 2.5 seconds, with a 3.6 second gap to P3 and a 1 second gap to P4. So yeah, starting definitely spreading out a little bit. However, give it 20 minutes, half an hour, and we'll have our first and only round of pit stops today.
Yeah, a lot can happen there. Like we can see even the 2 seconds that are the gap now in the pit stop, it can just disappear by just being slightly off the spot where they can pick you up, so they need to move you, and that's where you can lose the 3 seconds, even 3-4 seconds. So those gaps doesn't mean almost nothing. Because in the pits it can just change up everything anyways, because like I said, you can be a little bit off where you need to be. They need to move you a little bit, or sometimes they need to pick you up, move you, put you down and pick you up again, which is like the longest animation you can get. That's like 5 to 10 seconds of lost time. So yeah, sometimes with these gaps you can go from P1 into the last place by just doing the pit stop wrong a bit.
Yeah. Although, or if your luck is as bad as mine has been, you get speeding penalties in the pit lane. And believe me, at the Spa endurance pits that we are running today, that is a long pit lane. Very long pit lane.
Yeah, the drive-thrus here are bad for people. That's why I hope they are not trying to, be too fast, cutting corners everywhere, or trying to be on the point that is almost a corner cut, but it's not, because that can be dangerous. One move a little bit, moved a little bit to the right or the left, and you can get a warning for it. And here it's 3 warnings, and then it's drive through after the 3rd warning.
Yeah. ACC, of course, following the SRO rule set when it comes to cut tracks with a time advance, with time gained. It's 3 strikes and a drive-through, then a drive-through on your 4th instance. Which, to be fair, I know that other games and other sims will do things differently. I very much prefer the 3 strikes rule because you can cut a track but not necessarily gain a time advantage. Whereas if you are gaining advantage from being maybe too aggressive over a certain curbing, 3 strikes is very cut and dry. There's no time and there's no weird penalty box that some series use. It's just very simple and effective method of policing things like track limits. If you cut a corner 4 times, and you're gaining time by doing so, it's simple. There's an old English adage, verb, colloquialism, whatever you want to call it, of KISS, keep it simple, stupid. And as complex as racing can be sometimes, sometimes simple stuff like that goes a long way.
Yeah, exactly. I like this version of policing track limits, or track limits better as well than other sims. Because sometimes the other sims is like, you get 2 seconds, but then it's like go up, go down, and it's 10 seconds almost because you need to slow down. Yeah, so I think this is the best from them.
Yeah. Plus, another bonus with Assetto Corsa Competizione is that because it is an automated system, it means that our hard-working stewards don't have to think about it.
Exactly, they can work only on the touching or the hitting, and they can let the track limits be for the automated system indeed.
I believe in the real world they're moving more towards like laser triggered, automated systems for these things. I would not have a clue on the specifics as much as I am a nerd that would be interested in that stuff. But
I think Paul Ricard is now first track that has them. You can see them in ACC as well, and they work similarly to it. After the long straight, there is the fast right-hander, and you can go a little bit to the curbs and a little bit to the outside, but then you can see like there are some, not sausages, but it's like small groups, and if you don't get back on the track before them, you will get hit by a warning. And that's where the lasers are. If they see a car there, you will get a warning for it. So you need to move to the right before.
Absolutely, although, slight change of topic, I just noticed that Solon has brought down the gap to Moza in the number 2 BMW. For some reason running a carbon livery today, I wouldn't for the life of me know why. But the gap has really dropped suddenly. Did Moza maybe have a bit of a funky lap that had allowed Solon to gain the advantage? As they're sort of within that window, maybe not close enough to make a move before Blanchimont as we go on the high speed. Always terrifying for me in the dirty air behind another car at being at this close. But not quite close enough to make a move yet, although very close through the bus stop chicane. I believe it's still the bus stop chicane. Please correct me if I'm wrong.
It is.
So maybe a bit of a sleeper that we might have missed here as the top 2 have run away and built their gap. Moza, very last round, very fast early on in their stint, but perhaps maybe struggling with tyres or their driving as the stint goes on, as they're almost nose to tail looking at I thought they were going to pull out and go for 2 wide up a Rouge for a second, but Solon very much playing the longer game, trying to maintain momentum up the speed through the corner, through the kink, onto the long camel straight.
He's trying to show him into the mirrors, maybe try to make him into a mistake, then claiming the position.
Yeah,
Or getting the good run on them.
Yeah, again,
Yeah,
playing the
so
mental
into-
game. The mental game again. Trying to fake moves,
Oh.
to look big in the mirror. Oh.
As we've had a disconnect, I believe.
Oh yeah,
Or
the Mercedes is connected.
91
Not another
Mercedes.
not another technical issue. They were performing so well that they've just completely disappeared off our timing. Hopefully that's just a brief blip, but
I only see 3 cars on the map now.
yeah, I don't know what the rules are or the way the game behaves if you disconnect mid-race.
You will get
really-
thrown into the pits.
You will get thrown in the pits and have
Yeah.
to wait until you're allowed to drive out of the pits again.
Yeah.
Yeah, really unfortunate because they were doing just enough there to keep the gap, but we'll see if they rejoin the field because they were maybe not sort of keeping up with the leaders, but performing fairly well. I just looked up and saw that, like, wait a minute, now we're down to 3 cars. What's going on? This isn't correct. Gap sort of increased a little bit between the number 2 and the 74 that lap. Maybe not as close as they were the lap before, but I think Sola may be playing the edge games as we start to edge towards slowly creep towards our first and only pit stop cycle. I still think that maybe Musa and that car setup might be a little bit too spicy later on in the run. Because if you are a little bit overly aggressive with the BMW, from my own experience at least, if you are a bit too aggressive in the beginning of the run, is it very nearly on the rear of the BMW there?
Sniffing on the bumper.
Very much, almost.
I want to say
contact.
about, on the exhaust, but the BMW has an exhaust on the sides.
Yeah, sniffing the big sniffer as it's colloquially known for comedic purposes. With the BMW with its very large grills.
We can see the speed differences between those two cars.
Yeah.
The NSX cannot catch up in the slipstream. So the BMW is just pulling. Oh, we have the Mercedes back. Now in the pits.
Yeah, the 91 Mercedes is back in the field. They're back in the sim. However, I believe that will put them at least 1 lap down, maybe more.
It depends how long the pit time is now when you return to pit. It can be like multiple minutes, and a wrap around is 20 minutes. So if you have like 5 minutes time in the pits, you're gonna be down 2 laps.
Yeah.
And
Admittedly, that's sort of one of the double-edged swords with Spa-Francorchamps because of its 7.004 kilometer length. Don't ask me why that specifically is in my head. I don't know why, but
and it is indeed correct as well.
yeah, my mind remembers the weirdest facts at times, but it's just very particular from Spa and the FIA, based on I think the ideal line.
And from the information, it was just a disconnect issue. It was what the game does to me sometimes, as well. So yeah, I hate when that happens. I still don't know what is to connect it to. I think it might be Steam issue mostly, because once in a while I get disconnected from the Steam, so Steam doesn't see the servers and it disconnects me from the game as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I would not know enough about the technical background behind this game. Unfortunately, it's not something I do on a regular basis. But Solon very much closing up on under braking of to the BMW ahead, yet not quite being able to make the move. It's one thing I know that in my driving experience that I struggle with generally. It's like you're very good under braking, and the BMW is a very aggressive car under braking. However, if you're not alongside, if you cannot get alongside your competitor to make a sneaky move up the inside or maybe a switchback around the outside. So we go into, can I remember the chicane? Forgive me, I don't have my track book up. But Solon very much all over the rear of that BMW. The Lacombe chicane into Malmedy down to Russell Rivage. into X no-name speakers. There's so many. These corners have had so many names over the years. I can never remember which is current.
Spa official track map has it as nothing.
Yeah,
So yeah, no name then.
yeah. Which is weird because I would have thought that local legend and well-known driver Jackie X would still be more than content to have a corner named after him.
And for the last corner, the official track map is just calling it chicane.
Yeah. Well, I believe when this was still mostly public roads, there used to be a bus stop around that area. And merely it's that chicane, and it has changed in its many forms before. I believe in like the 80s or 90s, it used to be a lot more like the chicane at Watkins Glen, which I think itself was called the bus stop chicane.
It is, yes. Or bus stop
This is the same thing at Daytona as well. I know they
Yeah.
changed the name at Daytona, but I'm still going to call it the bus stop chicane. I'm sorry. I'm a curmudgeon. You can bully me afterwards.
Well, yeah, there is the little knot between the two biggest 24-hour races where
Yeah.
at Le Mans we have the Daytona chicane, which is the last one, and at Daytona now we have the Le Mans chicane, which was the bus
Formula.
stop chicane before.
Yeah.
So it's a little nod by IMSA and WEC to each other that yes, they are two huge 24-hour races.
Especially now with both series running GT3 cars IRL.
Exactly.
More affordable form compared to their GTE competitors. Not that the GTE cars did not provide good racing, they very much did. It's just, in a world where money is a lot tighter than it used to be, GT3 racing is an arguably more cost-effective option for race teams.
And it's
Compared to
easier to teach drivers to drive GT3 cars, because of course GTEs had no ABS, so yeah, you are driving a faster GT3 car with no ABS, so locking up was quite normal with those cars.
Although, still a possibility in these cars if you have your assist set too low, depending on the corner. Sometimes I've found in certain conditions, especially the rain, having your tyres locked can be an advantage if you're looking for a certain kind of rotation or trying to take the corner a certain way.
Yeah.
That sometimes maybe a lower assist can be beneficial.
For me, when I'm in rain, I am bumping the assist up. Not in ACC. In ACC, rain isn't a rain. It's, you know, it's not that complicated here. But in the other sims, when rain hits, you better bump up that assist to the top, or you will not survive a lap.
Yeah, it's a lot of it comes down to experience as well, but very much as we again edging towards our first pit stop cycle here, Solon still just keep very much on the rear of that BMW, but not able to make a pass. We'll see if anyone of them feel like trying the undercut. I don't know if that'd be super advantageous here with the endurance pit lane. If we were running the shorter sprint pit lane, which exits just after the La Source hairpin there, you should be able to see the orange barriers on the side separating the two.
That's
That would be the normal
F1 pit lane,
F1.
isn't it?
Yeah, F1 sprint, one of the two.
Yeah, but ACC is using the endurance pit lane, and yeah, if you want more than 20 cars, the endurance pit lane is needed for it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you can see even like, I don't know what the real life Spa-24 had, but I think the other sim one was 49 cars, so you definitely need the endurance pit lane for that.
Yeah.
Kind of scary to the view of 49 cars going through Arush and Radeon together from the start.
Yeah.
That's why I never want to start it, because even if it's multi-class, because Spa-24 isn't multi-class, it's GT3 only, but even if it is multi-class like the 6 hours of Spa that WEC runs, I still wouldn't want to start in any of the classes.
Yeah.
Still so dangerous because you can have the LMHs, which are the prototypes. The prototypes you can have crash in that field. The GT3 field is spaced out a bit, but still you are running full speed towards a crash.
Yeah. Although, as the time ticks down 45 minutes into our first of 2 hours today, a shortened race due to a smaller than expected grid. We have our lineup currently as follows: the number 69 McLaren, currently running with a nearly 10-second gap and the nearest car. Very much a dominant performance last round, and they seem to be doing the same again now. After making an assertive / aggressive pass on their nearest competitor, followed by the number 2 BMW M4 GT3 Project Vapor car, driven by Muath Musa at the minute from South Africa. Very notable driver from last round. And then shortly followed up by hot on their heels is the number 74 Honda NSX, driven by Daniel Solon. Apologies if I don't have the correct team down. Things are not synchronizing on my end. That is my issue. And then unfortunately, after a disconnect, we have the 91 Mercedes AMG Project 91 racing team in the garage. I don't know if they're going to rejoin or whether they're still waiting for the sim to allow them to. But they were running in P2 before their disconnect.
If they wouldn't be on the server, the car wouldn't be there, so I think they're still waiting for the game to allow them to go drive.
See. Yeah. Very unfortunate for the Mercedes AMG, because they were maybe not super close, but they were definitely sort of consistent enough with their pace to come home with a P2. We'll have to see if anything else happens, but with a shortened race day, I don't believe they will have much time to recover another position. May just be using it as a practice and training experience, as other teams do in the real world.
Yeah.
Unfortunate to see, because they were very much one of the few cars able to give the 69 McLaren a good, keep them honest.
Yeah, it's disheartening a little bit when this happens, but for those long races, even though we have only 2 hours, so that's not really much can happen with this field size, but if you do bigger races, 24 hours, 12 hours, 6, 8, even if you disconnect or you crash out, it's still better to repair the car, get back into it, and just go drive. You can get experience from it, you can still get racing from it, because of course blue flags are non-existent in those kind of races, a little bit. So you can see normally that cars that were in the crash or needed to have like longer pit stops or stuff like that are lapped down, but they are unlapping themselves, which they can. They are allowed to do that. So
hopefully one benefit versus other forms of motorsport, primarily single-seaters, wherein blue flags are advisory.
Exactly.
Between, faster cars that are laps down and cars that are on the lead lap.
Even
one benefit, really.
By the tracc.eu's rules, if there is a blue flag, you have 3 laps to surrender the position. So yeah, that's not really if there are, I think, 3 laps in the range of 1.5 seconds, then you need to surrender the position.
Yeah, it is blue flags and sort of back markers, as it were, holding up the leading cars is a complex matter, because in one sense you want the as we have, apologies to have to interrupt my sentence here, as Soren is very close going into Puon here.
Not close enough though, so nothing for
they
now.
just looked a lot. Yeah, they just looked a lot closer on entry than I thought they were.
Yeah. But what you wanted to say, I think, is that the back markers have their own race to race, so it's not great that they need to surrender a position because there is a faster car behind them, when they can either race someone or need to gain lap times because they're like after a pit stop or something like that.
Yeah. But you've also got the thing of like, oh, this car that is not in racing for competition against me is holding me up. So it's a catch-22 with racing, which is why, although single-seater racing typically uses the blue flag rule as an instruction to the slower car to rescind the track position and allow the leading car to pass, I very much usually prefer, in this kind of racing where we do have the, blue cars are allowed to race one another for track position. Blue flag cars that are lapped are allowed to unlap themselves and race within reason.
Exactly, and even if you have someone that is so much faster than you and you have it behind blue flags, you know he's so much faster or they are so much faster than you, you will still surrender the corner or, lift off a bit on the straight or something like that to let them by. But if you know that you are faster than them, you don't need to do that and you can just continue and run away if you want to.
Yeah. Plus, as someone that has been involved in that kind of behaviour before, or that kind of situation on track, sometimes the backmarking car that is trying to unlap themselves and regain positions, they can pull you along. I've had it where I've been the faster car, I've not had the outright pace, I've asked the team that I was with, is this car that's trying to pass me faster than me? And they're like, oh, yeah. So, okay, fine, I shall let them pass.
Oh, yeah,
And you can just use them to fuel save, and it's a pro and con. There's a lot of, it's very situation dependent.
Yeah, that is another fun thing about the long endurance is in like random lobbies where you don't know the people that you are racing with. Sometimes alliances are born in there.
Absolutely.
Like for our 24 hours of Spa race, we had another Corvette that was behind us, that was faster than us, and they just asked us straight up if we can like let them go. So we did, and then when we had the faster guys in the car, they let us go by. They let us go by as well. So it's a, like small alliances, trade-offs like that, because it's a 24-hour race. You don't need to battle for the whole time.
Although, again, Solon very close on the back of the BMW with Moza again, as you're going to look at the looks at the inside, but again, just playing the head games. Not quite, close enough to make a move, yet just enough to put Moza at unease, perhaps. Moza maybe, again, like in the first round, I think, what were we, Valencia for our first round?
Valencia.
I really am having it.
It was
I'm having a bit of this, yeah. Moza again, like very, very fast and very performant in the early portion of their stint, yet struggling towards the end is again Solon just doing enough to keep them honest. Just keeping on the rear, maybe not wanting to make the move just yet, but definitely with a lot more speed and potential.
I don't think it's possible. You can see now that the BMW is just running away. I think the straight line speed of the BMW just doesn't allow the NSX to get close enough to make a move.
Perhaps it's
yes, it is one of the setup things, or it is one of the smaller engines on the grid, but it still pulls so much power from it. Even in other sims, the BMW is well known for being a straight line speed machine.
Indeed. I know my regular Gambit that I rarely have to use 6th gear in the BMW, so whenever I've been driving it in ACC, my brain gets a bit confused, just like, oh, I actually need to shift up and use all 6 gears?
There is actually 6 gear in that car.
Wait a minute, I thought it was in the 5-speed.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Solon very much definitely got a significant advantage in that NSX during the sort of the more technical sections of the track versus the straight for that BMW. Just got enough to keep it at bay. Although 1 hour 5 minutes to go, it shouldn't be too long before pit stops come along.
We'll see the strategies. Maybe someone will want to go longer, so they have shorter second stint, they have less fuel, and then they can be faster from the start. You'll see if they choose going 60 minutes or if they go longer a little bit.
And a little heads up from our production engineer today. Moza and Solon both put in identical lap times last time round, so very much think Daniel, as the fuel's definitely burning out of the NSX, looking for a way past, maybe trying around the outside, not quite. A bit of a weird place to sort of go on the inside there, pulling out slightly, very, very close to that BMW. Looking around the outside of the source hairpin. There's contact there. Maybe they weren't expecting the BMW to still be quite so far alongside up the inside. Having to again rescind, just slotting behind that BMW, that straight line advantage. Maybe that's where the BMW's strengths with its setup and driver are today. They built it for the straight line, not the technical section of Sector 2.
And on
the
Spa,
NSX very much faster in the lower mid-speed, but cannot take advantage along the long Camel Straight on the run up to Blanchimont consistently enough.
exactly, and here as well, the line you take through Arush and Radeon matters a lot. Sometimes it can make the car a little bit unstable, so you lose the speed from it. And sometimes if you do it correctly, you are just a rocket on the straights as well. So maybe they can use one of the corner cuts to just straight line the Arush and Radeon and just try to do it through that.
Well, there's definitely a bit of a grey area in the rules using
It is, yeah.
your stuff like that to gain an advantage in a different way.
But that's the thing, it is in the game like that. They will get the warning for it. So if they have enough, that sometimes we talk about it as well when we do sprint races in ACC, that like, yeah, I still have 3 corner cut warnings like ready, so I can maybe make a line a little bit different, so I can like get closer, something like that.
Yeah, very much these two. It's definitely got this very similar pace between them. I think if you were to give them an equal car, the same car with equal setup and performance, they'd be pretty much side by side for most of this track. Not that it would be smart, but one of those things. But I guess one of the benefits again of GT3 racing is that despite the differences in the car, a nose-heavy front-engine car like the BMW versus the mid-engine nature of the Honda NSX, they can race together and they clearly can race closely.
And of course, thanks to our guys that did the BOP for this, they are close to each other as well, because Honda NSX is one of the older ones, not really raced normally, but thanks to the BOP, they can keep up with the BMW. And they look like they wanna really attack it as well. So yeah, thanks to the guys that do the BOP as well. Thanks to that we can have a lot of more different manufacturers of the cars and a lot of different versions of the cars. And they still can drive closely.
Yeah, as we see, Moza still running very defensive along the Camel, slowly blending towards the outside as we go through the Lacoum chicane. Solon very much wanting to get past that BMW, but just it's the strengths and weaknesses of each car. That's one of the bonuses about GT3 racing. It just builds good racing, I think. And as much as this series is maligned in some circles, I still think that given the cars and given the drivers in the right circumstances, you can get racing like this, be it virtually, be it in the real world. Yeah, you've got drivers like our current leader today, the 69 Blue Bulls race, and driven by Loris Iverson, running away with the field, as their own abilities have shown. They're very consistent driver. However, we've got the 2 different cars of our 74 and number 2 here, showing that despite their differences, you can have very good racing. And that's why we all do this stuff. You can have your preferences in car. Like, I'd be lying to say if I didn't miss the scream of the V10 today, I wouldn't be lying if I wasn't missing that, but you can have such a variety and have these cars all race together.
Yeah, exactly. You can look at our Premier GT3 series that is gonna be starting in a month, I think, or something like that. That last season we saw, we have Iverson in the pits, so they did the 60-minute stint then.
Almost to the letter, or the number, the digit.
Exactly. Back to the Track GT, we could see that there was so many different cars. We even saw the V12 Aston Martin in there, 2 of them. The V8s were there as well, but they are a little bit more normal. The Lexus GT3, which is old, but thanks to the BOP it's possible to drive it well and be fast with it. We saw the Ferrari 488, not even the 296. So, like, thanks to the BOPs and thanks to the hard-working people at tracc.eu, we can get this racing with those cars that we would normally never see, because before the BOP there were 4 cars at best. There were one team that was running the Aston Martins, there was McLarens everywhere, 296s, and maybe someone would take the Lambo Evo 2 before it got nerfed again. So thanks to the hardworking people at tracc.eu, we can get racing with so many manufacturers and so many different versions of the cars. And yeah, and we can see that the number 91 Mercedes is back on the track, doing laps.
Yeah. Unfortunate about their earlier disconnect, because they were very much putting on a solid performance to maintain that P2 today. But I guess once, either between the drivers, the team, and everything else today, they're going out just to perform their laps, just to get more experience under their belt, because sometimes a little experience goes a long way, especially in all forms of racing, as we have, again, Solon and Moza now P1 and P2 after the 69 McLaren pits, now change it back to their qualifying driver, Snottins.
We will see if the number 2 and number 74 will answer the pit stop, or they will go longer. Okay, BMW is going in, and the Honda is continuing still, so they will go longer.
Yeah, perhaps Moza was decided that enough is enough. They've been all over me. I need a break, or maybe it's just the fuel didn't go quite long enough. As even though Solon was not able to pass the BMW, very much with the fuel saving into some corners would have been beneficial to give them the overcut. It's juggling your strategies in different ways.
Yeah, and
sometimes undercut can give you an earlier advantage but leave you more at risk at the end of a stint, or you can go for the overcut, run less fuel, have a shorter final stint.
We will see where the number 2 BMW will come out, because we can see now the 69 McLaren starting sector 3, the fast part. We'll see how much the gap changed, if it changed at all.
Well, with their earlier 10-second advantage over the field, I shan't imagine there'd be a big difference, but we'll have to see on pit exit. Yeah, especially with the longer endurance pit lane here.
Yeah, because the BMW is still moving, so it still didn't stop. They now just stopped, so now the 30 seconds starting, which is the normal pit with changed tires, so we'll see how big the gap will be.
Indeed, although one thing I did notice is that the 91 car has not changed their driver, despite their technical issues today. I don't know where the rulings stand on stuff like that, but I'll leave that for the stewards. It's not for me to worry about.
Yeah, and as we can see, it's not even close. The 69 is taking the lead again by a bigger margin, maybe potentially even.
Yeah, Snottins and their co-driver very much a performance powerhouse, as they've shown in both our first round in Valencia, but also here. Although Prista's Snottins maybe pushing a tiny bit too much on the colder tyres, looking a bit wiggly through La Source and Malmedy as we go down towards Bruxelles, Rivage. Take your pick. I'm never going to get it right. I'm going to be told I'm wrong regardless of which one I use. But we'll have to see, as Ishan Domingo for the number 2 Project Vapor car is out of pit lane now, going into Rivage. So not a big chunk of time lost, but we'll have to see when Daniel Solon of the 74 does decide to pit.
They went another lap, so they are going till the end of the stint timer, I think. So, yeah.
Perhaps maybe given their teammate a very short, almost 40-minute sprint-like stint to run to the end, especially as they were very close to the BMW earlier on, so we'll have to see how things play out.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if the BMW through the undercut will make the gap bigger than it was before, or the overcut will work better. I never know in this game, and with GT cars is of course different than in
Yeah.
F1, of course, which the undercut is always preferable.
Yeah. The principle is the same, I think, as F1. It's just that the timing is a bit larger. And I'm not very good with numbers at the best of times. But yeah. As it stands, as we are 5 minutes into the second hour, current leader is Daniel Solon, although the 74 car is yet to pit, and followed by the number 69 Blue Ball Racing McLaren, driven by Chris Nottins, taking over from their teammate. Third is Isham Domingo in the Project Vapor number 2 BMW. And fourth, after an unfortunate technical disconnect earlier, is the number Project 91 Mercedes AMG, driven by Mantis Liusnius. Apologies again if I butcher your surname. I'm very smooth with names. Although, again, they have not changed their driver. Yes. I barely speak English, and me trying to pronounce other names, it explains a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just difficult to even like say, and sometimes it's even difficult to speak, like for me, as English is my second language. So
yeah, you've got more troubles trying to do English than I do, and I'm a native speaker. Not as a slight, it's just that English is a weird language in its own right.
Oh, it is, yeah. You don't even know sometimes when I actually need to speak English here. Sometimes I will just take those two languages together and just something will come out from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird when you have your friends over. When you have your friends over here and that speak English, and then you need to speak Czech to someone else, and then you just, yeah.
Yeah. I definitely feel bad for the car, for the 91 Mercedes AMG though. They were maybe not as fast as the 69 car today, but definitely had a lot of performance under their belt and very willing to show it off. It's just, as is in real life, racing is a never-changing mix of skill, luck, and experience. And I guess earlier on in our first hour today, luck was not on their side. Because realistically, they should be between, at the very least, sort of fighting for the podium today, even with our smaller grid.
Yeah, exactly. It's just unlucky, and yeah, that's what endurance racing is about mostly. Like, of course, the speed and skill is needed, but I would say like 60% of it, maybe 50, is like luck based. Of course, if you get into any crashes that happen in front of you, if your wheel will have a technical difficulty, if the game will have a technical difficulty, or internet disconnects, or anything like that, or your game forgets to turn off your engine or something like that, which we had happening to us. Was it what happened at Sebring? It was, right? The game forgot to turn off the engine and the engine exploded due to overheating.
Oh, yeah, it's when I was running it, the Sebring 12, yeah, as we have the 74 car in the pits for their stop. So you were right, they were running their stint timer as long as they can to give their co-driver a shorter sprint-like finish. However, we'll have to see where they come out after the pit stop, because the long, grueling endurance pit lane takes its time to get through.
Yeah, and the worst part of it is there is the hairpin in the pit stop as well, where you can hit the wall pretty easily. And when it was in Spa-Francorchamps, there was a puddle till the end of the race, even though like it didn't rain for like 12 hours at that point. So it was still so dangerous to go through there. Because there is like a small groove in there that can hold water pretty well. And if you hit it, you will just go straight and hit the wall.
I still remember when I was running the Spa-Francorchamps a couple of years ago in a different sim where our teammate just clipped one of the barriers that they used in the endurance pit lane, and it basically flipped the car on its roof. Don't ask me how. I don't remember how. It's just like...
Physics.
Yeah. Right, let's just see as the 74 comes to their stop to serve their 30-second pit stop. Fuel, tyres, driver swap. Should be at least, anyway. I'm not expecting anybody to do this solo today. I don't know where they'll all stand on that one.
Oh, and the Mercedes hitting the fastest laps of the race.
Yeah.
Again, showing the pace that they had. It's a shame they can't race properly.
Yeah, showing that they definitely had the performance in that car and their driver today. It's just really unfortunate, that.
Okay, number 74 is moving, and we can see number 2 going. And will now go to Arush and Radeon in the second.
Will the 74 have done enough to get an advantage on pit lane? Yes, they have.
They indeed have. The overcut worked for this.
Indeed.
So
We'll
now,
have to
of
see.
course, they have newer tires as well. Same amount of fuel-ish, but newer tires, so they might just run away at this point.
We'll have to see, because, again, although that NSX has been very strong in the mid-sector, you still have the long, almost straight-like first and third sectors around here, making Spa arguably one of the most demanding tracks on any car, and hard to find the perfect balance. We'll see if Nathan Misyak in the 74 car can work with that gap and extend it, or even maintain it, or whether the BMW behind can use its straight-line advantage with Isham Domingo behind the wheel to maybe close the gap and see if they can fight for that second step on the podium today. As again, now the pit cycles have rolled around, 69 car back in the lead with a good 20-second delta. So, like with our first round in Valencia, there's no other way of saying it. They've been the clear performer of this SRO Esports qualifying series. Would have been nice to have more competitors on the field to give a comparison, but I think that 69 car and their drivers, they've shown that they're very committed to this. As yeah, the timing screens now confirm that they are P1 overall, with the number 2 with the 74 Honda NSX in P2, and with a 1.9 second delta to P3, the number 2 BMW M4 GT3. And our last runner today, purely down to unfortunate disconnects, the Project 91 AMG Mercedes Project Racing team.
And from what I see, the delta is going down, so the BMW is catching, slowly but surely catching up the NSX. So we might have a fight there for P2, which... Yes, please.
45 minutes to go, anything can happen. Anything's possible. Although I will say that at our last round at Valencia, both of their drivers were very quick and very aggressive early on in their stint, yet towards the end of the stint they kind of struggled with the car. So we'll have to see how they managed to eke out the performance as they went for a more even split. Something I've definitely experienced in the BMW in my own hands is that if you're too aggressive with a car early on in the stint, it's the same thing in any car, but I noticed that because I used the BMW a lot myself in ACC, you can take out a lot of tyre life. So maybe overspeed a corner by a couple of kilometres an hour here, you slide a little bit too much there on entry or exit. The margins are fine. The BMW can be a really good consistent car, but it also requires that you yourself are patient in your consistency. God, that delta really has come down.
Yeah, he's slowly catching.
But then again, the 74 is not quite up to speed as we speak. So we'll have to see if that continues, if it continues coming down, starts to maintain, or whether it increases.
Yeah, now there is the sector 3 coming up, but BMW should have the advantage to start catching up. And now in the slipstream range as well, it should be catching up a lot. can see creeping up slowly. Oh, it's really close. I think through Arush and Radeon is gonna be very interesting this lap.
Yeah.
And after, of course, in the Camel Straight. Little bit wiggly, but nothing they can handle. Going through the first corner here. Not really taking the curb as a whole, which I learned that you kinda need to cut it like through the whole curb.
Yeah, you almost sort of getting through the source hairpin quite right is a bit of a challenge because you're basically almost skimming paint off the wall as you go through it. As a BMW very much sort of using its straight line speed advantage. Ah, there we are. Clear over speed advantage there. The NSX hiding on the inside, but the BMW is well cleared before we get into the braking zone. 100 meters down on the brakes.
Oh!
A little bit of contact there. The NSX maybe trying to carry too much speed into the corner to not lose time. Pushes the BMW off wide through the source hairpin. And ultimately decreases the BMW stays ahead, but we'll have to see what the stewards think about that one. And just as I was thinking about asking our one of our stewards and our league organizer to come and join us, perhaps if they have the time, but maybe after they've had a look at this incident. Can't interrupt somebody whilst they're working, of course.
And we could actually, I saw a little bit in Arush and Radeon that the NSX went a little bit too wide, or not like too wide, but like cut it too much, so maybe slow down for not getting a warning. That's why the BMW has so much overspeed there, because there was a mistake in Radeon specifically. And the NSX doesn't look damaged at all. It looks like it's one of the tanks of the GT3 cars. Meanwhile, in the BMW, we could see some scrapes at the rear of the BMW.
I think one of the things with the BMW is like it can take a beating.
Yeah,
If it weren't for the stream being needing to be family friendly, I could make a joke, but I shan't go there today. I shall not go there today. I shall get in trouble.
But yeah, it is.
Like,
BMW is a big chunkus indeed.
Yeah, it can very much take a beating and still perform to its best.
It doesn't really look like a GT3 car as well. It's just so huge.
Yeah,
You can see like the McLaren. Yeah, we can, and the Mustang, of course. Well.
Yeah, the BMW, the Mustang, and the Lexus are very large vehicles.
We can always see like the 296 and the McLaren being slick, low to the ground, aerodynamic, a lot of winglets and stuff like that. And then you have this, which is a driving brake.
Absolutely.
It's still till this day, even in WEC and IMSA, they are one of the best running cars as well.
Although watching the 69 car to see how they're getting on with their 20+ second delta at the minute, I did spot them going a little bit wide at the exit of No Name.
Yeah,
I wonder whether Christus Nottin has just lost focus a tiny bit for a second, but
yeah, there still can be spin, like you said, the fast lap handler in the sector 3 can take a life in there, so they just need to keep it on track and just bring it home at this point slowly.
Like I was saying, the mix, the ever-changing sort of weird triangle of skill, experience, and luck is ever-changing in racing, be it sprint or endurance. So nothing is settled until the checkered flag falls, provided no one's got themselves into trouble.
We can see the gap is getting bigger and bigger slowly, so
yeah, maybe there is some lingering damage on that 74 Honda.
It's weird because it doesn't seem like it has damage. It seems it like take the hit as a champ and just survived it.
Yeah, but sometimes aerodynamic damage can be subtle, which will affect you in the mid-high speed corner entries and stuff, but we'll have to see.
Yeah. But yeah, the gap is now 2.9 seconds. So yeah, the BMW running away slowly.
Yeah,
Shame. I
think
wanted to see more battling here, but yeah.
absolutely, but maybe that was just sort of like a moment too far. But we've also got just under 40 minutes to go. It ain't over yet.
Yeah.
Maybe
so-
that was a little knock on the confidence of the 74, but doesn't mean it's over.
Okay, for the incident between 74 and number 2, it was NF8, so no further action for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, stewards will have easy time this time.
Yeah.
Not like they need to steward 30 cars going around. Which, as part of the team as well, and doing stewarding for different series, not different league, but different series. Yeah, it can be really, really hard to do. We can see here the number 69 still leading. The gap is at this point, well, the ACC doesn't show, but it's like 25, 30
24 and a
seconds.
half.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thought so. 25 seconds, so they are running away. They don't really need to push and run away more, but you can't say that to a racing driver. So
Absolutely, both in the sim and in the IRL. It's drivers are paid to sort of find the limits and push them to the nth degree.
and yeah, it's like if we go to F1 with Max, when their engineer is telling him to take it easy, and then he's setting fastest lap times after.
Yeah. It's like the old Bono my tyres.
Exactly.
If we were to use Lewis Hamilton's, experience, for example, not that I'm biased, it's just something that pops into my head.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah. Yeah. But yeah, like Max saying that, telling to Max that he doesn't need to push and setting fastest lap times, or like you said, Lewis having problems with his tires so much that he's setting fastest lap times.
Yeah. Really struggling then, are you, Lewis?
Yeah,
But no.
exactly.
But again, the thing is that as much as you want to push, you want to extract your fastest lap, you want to show, not just in terms of side-by-side racing, but raw pace, that you are one of the people worth paying attention to. You need to be careful with the line, because you don't want to push it too far and have, push yourself over the limit and have an incident. I've done that myself before, where you push too hard and it all comes undone. It is a fine line as a driver to extract the most that you can at performance, to make a statement, say, look, this is what I'm capable of.
And sometimes it's an ego thing, isn't it?
Far.
Sometimes it's the
Yeah,
ego thing as well.
It.
Yeah, because telling someone that wants to go fast to not go fast, and then his mind is start working like, oh, you think I'm gonna do a mistake or something, so then they start pushing more and stuff like that. Yeah, sometimes it's an ego thing as well.
Yeah, but that's racing for us. It's a highly competitive thing, so it's towards. However, we are joined in the booth by our league organizer, Julian Strasser, and also another steward/admin, Jordan Brunch. Welcome on in, gents.
Hello, thanks for having us.
It's all right. I did see some of our drivers were willing to join us today, but I guess people were not feeling the interest, or they were focusing on their racing, which perfectly understandable. It's always optional. How have you been finding the race today?
Yeah, understandably, it was rather calm. Let's say we've had 4 incidents so far, all of which we have deemed as no further actions, because it was not much more than a bit of minor door banging. So yeah, kind of chuffed, honestly, about that there are only 4 cars on the grid today. However, I think we're still seeing some very good driving by these all of the different drivers, and some very good lap times being brought in by many of them. So I think even though this is not the biggest grid in the universe, it's still one that is worthy of being called esports.
Yeah. Of course, this event sort of being run, is it in association with or for the SRO Esports thing? Admittedly, I'm not 100% clear on that one.
It is a qualifying event for the for an upcoming SRO Esports series. That is correct.
Clarification, I do not have the best short-term memory. But no, you're definitely right with some of the drivers, like the 69 car. They were the class of the, I'd argue they were the class of the field in our previous event in Valencia, and I think they're showing that again today, that although sort of a smaller grid perhaps to focus on, their lap times, from what I've noticed whenever I looked at them, have been very consistent. And I think you'd argue from your own experience, both driving and also running events, that consistency is something very much that you need to take into consideration.
Well, yeah, and it's not only me that can sing you a song about that. Also, Jordan here, who I am happy to say is a very consistent driver, and has been able to even get the most recent championship win due to being just consistent.
Absolutely.
Right, Jordan? I don't think Jordan wants to talk.
Understandable. Broadcast can be a bit weird sometimes, yeah. Admittedly, yeah, I will say that as someone that was trying to challenge Jordan throughout our previous V-Track series, consistency definitely fell in Jordan's favour. There were many occasions where I know that I had there were some occasions where I had more pace than him, but other things just did not go in my way, and sometimes that consistency is what needed. You don't have to be the fastest all the time, you don't need the raw pace, but you do need that consistency and that look, really, sometimes. That ever-changing mix.
Yeah, there's definitely a few things that come together when you're racing. A few things that have to come together for you to get wins. In this case here, and this 2-hour race at Spa is mostly about, well, first of all, having the pace, having a competitive pace to begin with, and then being able to repeat it lap after lap. It's less of a luck-based thing here, although I guess the entire grid has been a bit lucky to have been getting a completely dry server. There was a chance that there could have been rain. However, that did not come to pass, as it seems, and it will not come to pass towards the end of the race. So yeah, that's pretty much the only bit of luck that is playing in your hands, and when you have such a small grid.
Yeah.
And with rain, like we were talking before, here when the rain hits, there are some spots that are just almost undrivable. Arushan Radeon is one of them. You need to take it really slow, or you will just understeer into the first wall that you see.
Yeah.
Of course, here as well, the McLaren going through the fast left-hander. There you need to slow down a lot because the curbs are divot in a bit, so the water just stands here. You hit the water puddle, and then yeah, the ass wants to be the front after that.
Yeah.
I also I'm quite impressed by the NSX being in the top 3. Mainly as I remember, if I can recall correctly, the NSX is not particularly the strongest car nowadays. It's good to see it's holding its own and still, well, I think it's pretty guaranteed it's got a podium, but
Yeah.
it's good to see
Well,
that an NSX is doing this well.
Yeah, although one thing, sort of looking at the 74 NSX earlier, is that they were all over the rear of the number 2 BMW as well. So that NSX definitely stronger in the more technical second sector of this circuit. However, depending on the car and the setup, admittedly I've not driven the NSX, so I don't know its weaknesses. Does not seem to be take advantage of the strength of its. Forgive me. Cannot use its gains in some areas effectively.
As
Like,
far as
struggle-
I know, the weight transfer is one of the bigger issues on the NSX, especially having the stability under the weight transfers. So them being strong in the technical sectors is an immense props to whoever made the setup. Yeah, because usually the strength of the Honda lies in straight line speed. That's why it's so strong at tracks like Bathurst, which is basically just a few straights connected by a few corners, isn't it?
well, I think it's a bit more than a few corners.
Yeah,
but
the
she's
sector
got
2
someone
is.
I'm particularly good at anyway.
I did flip a car in the sector 2 at Bathurst multiple times. So
Oh, dear.
yeah.
Let's just say the parts where you can overtake on Bathurst are wholly dependent on the straight line speed right before that.
Although I guess it's a sort of a similar mentality, really, because you can set the car up for the more technical sector, or you can set the car up for the straight line speed here. Either way, it's finding that compromise and trying to take best advantage of
Yeah,
whatever limitations you find.
And we could see before a little bit that the NSX couldn't catch up to the BMW on the straight lines, so there
Yeah.
must be a higher rear wing there as well.
Must have sacrificed the straight line speed in that case. I'm sure the guys at Writer Engineering who are running the car know what they're doing when setting up cars in ACC. So yeah.
I still find it very ironic that a team called Writer Engineering is not running the right.
Yeah, it would be an amusing sight to see if they were running their namesake car, but I suppose they looked at it, tested it, and understood its limitations, decided we're going to try something different. So
Perhaps, for all we know, if this is the real Writer Engineering, who has made the Murcielago REX, perhaps this may be an eye-opener. Perhaps it may be like something different. You know, their next car.
Well, yeah, right?
I'd love to see a Writer Engineering Bentley Continent.
Oh God, yes. Anything as long
Bring
as the
that.
Bentley comes back. You just spoke directly into my heart there.
Oh, of course. Yeah, but
And then
Writer,
there's-
Writer Engineering is actually known in. Fun fact: there was a Writer Engineering Mustang GT3, like the old one, or was it a Camaro? One of those. I think it was Camaro.
It was
Yeah,
the
it was-
Camaro that is available in Race Room.
Yeah, exactly, and it was driven by a Czech person as well, Czech guy. So yeah, that's why I kind of like Writers, and of course they have my favorite Lamborghini, the Gallardo. So
But yeah, I think nowadays they're a bit too preoccupied with working together and doing the race cars for KTM. Exactly. I heard recently the other day that there's a GT2 KTM Evo in the works and soon to be coming out. So really looking forward to what that can do, what changes from
So,
the original
yeah.
GT2.
So that means the Czech connection with Writer still continues, because one of the teams are indeed Czech that runs the KTM.
I don't
Oh.
want to see it. I'd love to see a KTM GT3.
Oh,
They've got a GT4. Yeah, an upcoming GT2. Well, an
Oh.
evolution of its current GT2 car. So may as well complete the trio and have a third.
I agree. However, I think the main reason why they're not doing that is because, well, honestly, developing I don't think they have the resources to, apart from developing all of the motorcycles, develop multiple cars. And the GT2 class is the class where one of the CEOs of Pira Mobility is racing, Heinz Kindergartner. So I think that's the reason why they made the KTM GT2,
yeah,
so the CEO can race.
yeah, and for
I mean,
the
it's a
KTM
way
as well. Yeah,
It's
is it
definitely
in
one
the
way to
past?
advertise your brand, have your CEO do the bulk of the racing for you. Hopefully, not in the same. Hopefully, nothing that happens in a similar vein to what happened during, was it an IndyCar race or a NASCAR race with one of the GM executives and the pace car. I can't remember which race that was. It was one of the street circuits many moons ago. For the life of me, I can't remember what it was.
Is it the one where the Corvette crashed?
Yes, that's
That was
exactly it. Yeah.
I was an IndyCar and no.
Ah.
I remember
I
that
do wish-
because I have Belle in iRacing. I've ruined it a few
Yeah,
times.
that's one car. Just for the sake of it, I'd love to try around Belle Isle when I get the chance. Is just try a GT3 around there.
Maybe
I know,
just
obviously.
a safety car. See if you can try and slide
God.
it better.
Oh God, no!
And back
I
to
don't
the-
need any. I don't need any help having incidents and accidents. If the last VTrack season brings up any memories, my goodness.
And back to the KTM really fast. I think there is a bigger possibility that they would make a prototype than a GT3 because if we look how the cars look, they look prototype-ish. Like the GT2 and the
yeah.
GT4 is like closer to the prototype or a motorcycle than a GT3 car. So I would see them
Although-
making like an LMP3 or something like that.
Wonder. Mainly the KTM is a bike manufacturer. I wonder if they were ever to make, just in theory, ever to make a GT3, do you think they would have Red Bull sponsorship with their connection to MotoGP?
If they're
It
running a factory
depends.
team, yes. But if they're not running a factory team, no. Or not necessarily.
Or
Just
at
going
least
back
if
to
one of
our-
the drivers is perhaps a Red Bull Junior driver of sorts, maybe.
Although speaking of GT3 stuff, I thought the regulations for GT3 that you had to have it had to be based solely around a production road car, be it a supercar, be it like a saloon like the I guess the
Yeah.
ANG or the
But I don't know.
BMW or
I don't
stuff.
remember. I don't know if you remember the picture going around the Twitter or X that they showed like the GT3 cars next to the production cars, and you could see the Acura not being even close to each other. So I
I
don't
might have
think
missed
they.
that one, to be
Yeah,
fair.
I don't. It was like this Acura, the Honda NSX that is in this game. It's similar to the Acura, and next to it, it was like an Acura SUV or something like that. It wasn't even close to each other, but they still allow it to run it anyways.
In all fairness, the only reason that they use that is because the NSX is no longer in production. Because the NSX
Kinda
only
sucks.
stopped production a year or two ago, I think. Maybe even just last year, or earlier this year.
But yeah, that's why these cars they are based on the KTM Crossbow platform. Obviously, the Crossbow is a street is a vehicle that can run on the street, and as well they have the GTX, which can also be licensed to this. Can also be run on the street. So yeah, I think the only issue could be if there is a mandatory minimum production number per year or something, like the North American market always wants for their prototypes for whatever reason.
Oh yeah, I do. Yeah, some series do have their minimum production quotas
Yeah,
for the
IMSA does,
base
right?
chassis. Yeah. Although, speaking of that, one thing I always forget is that I did not realise that I had a Multimatic factory down the road from me, literally a 15-minute walk from my house. It's a weird small world. It's weird how where bits of motorsport really sort of just hide in the background. You don't really pay attention, and all of a sudden you drive past, you think that's a factory.
I think especially in the UK, it's rather easy to just stumble upon something motorsports related because, well, for some reason it's the center of Formula One, which at the moment is the center of motorsports. I think every team has the headquarters in the UK except for Ferrari.
And
think
so,
Haas
and
is well.
Alpha Tauri as well.
Oh yeah.
Alpha Tauri.
Yeah, Alpha Tauri has it in Italy as well. Because they are still
Yeah.
somehow under Italy, though it's yeah difficult with those.
It's because when the team was originally bought from
Yeah, Minardi, yeah.
they made a promise for I think a certain amount of time that they'd have to stay in Italy, so people who already had a job there wouldn't have to relocate.
Which is
Yeah.
good from Red Bull that they keep that promise as well.
They've kept that for Harold's, Harold's.
I remember was first season like 2003, 2004.
I think it was later than that. Because I know Red Bull Racing's F1 program started in 2005.
Oh, okay, so yeah,
So
2006
they
then, or
they
7
are
actually.
6.
I know they are in the F1 Championship game for PS3, so that's 2007, I think. So
It's just all of this stuff just
Oh,
makes me
six,
feel
yeah.
really old.
I
Don't worry,
know
I'm in the same boat.
it's over than 2008 to say the least, because they were the first car out of the 2 Red Bull teams. Well, the first team with 2 Red Bull teams at one of those.
Yeah,
Made at Monza.
with Sebastian
Together.
Vettel.
Yep. Not enough. Who had the same? Remember if it's? I think it was 2008, where he had the same rest on as the one I was
Are you sure you didn't copy him, Jordan?
with. No, because I only noticed like a year after I started using the number.
Yeah.
Ah.
For me, numbers are difficult because I use the number 22, which I cannot use on ovals because some of the NASCAR drivers that I don't really like use the same number as well. So yeah,
Really,
for the oval race that is coming up in the Mazda series, I'm gonna use 31 for that.
Which will
I
be
am.
tomorrow, fun enough.
Yep.
oh, I forgot about that tomorrow as well.
Yeah, we are going to oval with MX5s.
Fun enough,
I'm-
talking about the ovals, well not ovals, the MX5s. I'm still surprised about last week. I mean, it was a pretty fun run.
Yeah. Although I'm waiting for Daytona so we can get some bump drafting on Daytona Road. Just
it
like the
needs to
real
be-
series.
No,
Just
it
like the
needs-
real thing.
Well, watch out for the real series. They actually penalize the bump drafting or locking bumps at least.
You know, I'm
Yeah.
generally like excited for when it comes to Daytona. I'm excited for every car go down the backstraight if they're doing bump drafting going into the bus stop chicane. I'm curious who will be the last of the white breakers.
Oh no. Forward into the bus stop, yeah.
But the key thing is with the bump drafting is that you lift off a good few meters before you actually need to start braking because of the overspeed. So it's just there'll be an experience thing.
It's gonna be fun.
Although going back to our current race today with just under 18 minutes to go to the checkered flag, we've got again the number 69 Blue Ball Racing McLaren here with showing their clear pace and consistency advantage today. They've just run away with it. Like you were saying earlier, it's like they did the same thing at round 1 at Valencia, and they're doing the same thing again today. Just consistently performant. Both of their drivers are definitely locked into this. Maybe not absolutely giving it the raw pace, but definitely a consistent margin. So we'll have to see how they go through into the follow-up event. Although, I do wish we had more sign-ups today, but conflict. It is summertime in Europe and the US, in the Northern Hemisphere, so I understand that people maybe don't want to be stuck inside all day. Although, looking out my window, it's wet and miserable in the UK.
Oh, I don't want
Ah,
to go
yeah,
outside here
UK.
as well.
The usual.
Here is 32 degrees. Here is 32 degrees, so I wouldn't want to be outside as well.
I also have to have my AC running at the side, and that does not stand for Assetto Corsa.
Oh,
Oh?
glad to be the DSQ just happened.
Oh. Oh, I know why. Perhaps they this was a mandatory team event, was it not, Julian?
Yes, there's a max driver time setup, and Leocinas
right.
in the Mercedes did let us know on the Discord that their teammate did not show up today, so they could not hand over to the teammate basically, and there is. What did I set it up to? I think it was set up to about 80 minutes. That was a max driver time. However, since Leocinas had a disconnect in the early parts of the race, it was delayed until now for the DSQ. So,
Still,
yeah, they
that
just
almost...
get the max driver's time. Yeah.
I see. That almost feels like insult to injury on their part because they had their disconnect earlier on the race when they were honestly really performant in the first half before their disconnect.
And
Yeah,
first
feels like
lap of the race.
Yeah, like it's just like they showed their pace today. I just feel really bad that they're not really going to be able to bear fruit, as it were, from their performance. The disconnect, obviously, the disqualification due to, drive time regulations, which I understand fully having. It's just that it's probably a bit of a slap on the proverbial wrist for them and not what they were wanting out of today.
I mean, in the end, it does not really matter because they didn't participate in the first round either. But looking at the pace of Leocinas, if their teammate was about the same pace as them, they could have had a chance to win this entire championship and represent tracc.eu at the next SRO championship.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but them's the breaks. These are the rules we sign up for and agree to when we sign up for events. It just sucks that their teammate didn't show up, and obviously they fall afoul due to technicalities. Because they managed to take the I don't believe they got pole in qualifying, but they definitely took the lead for the first few laps and made it very challenging for the 69 car's other driver to get past them.
Yeah, started P2 and got the jump on the start line, being able to basically manifest their first position through Orange Radio. Then defending for a few laps before a slight tappy overtake happened, but as stewards we deemed it no further action because there was enough space left between the two. Leocinas did show in the end that they have some great pace and that they are material for some good high-level races.
Absolutely, it's just sometimes I think that's some of the unfortunate thing with racing sometimes, that you fall afoul of technicalities and rules like that, despite the fact that you show you are clearly capable. It's that your results don't always show your capabilities.
Yeah, why don't we polish rules?
Well, I think we all know why we don't, but believe me, I know I've fallen afoul of a few. I can few myself. But, like, one of those things. I hope that, if nothing else, I've got to butcher their name. I do apologise again. The 91 driver today can at least be content with their performance on track, even if the results don't necessarily show the advantage, because they definitely got the material there.
Yeah.
Given the right co-driver, like you said, I'm sure they would have given the 69 car a run for their money.
As we're just looking back at the NSX, it just went off.
Oh.
That's a heavy collision in the front end.
Oh dear.
Yeah, second hit as well on the inside.
And they're pitting for the damage. Damn, I must have missed the incident. Admittedly, I'm not.
Fresh. That's probably just happened.
Admittedly, I'm not too hot on the tools we do have that are available to us, but yeah, that's not ideal. That even the windscreen's looking a bit damaged on that NSX.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the replay. It looks very weird. It seems like a moment of not paying attention and losing it on the fast, in the fast last sector, basically, and just went full straight into the tire barrier.
Easily done. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're not wrong there. You would have thought that you'd be consistent, just keeping a consistent amount of angle in the corner for Blanchimont, but no, they just. Well, the kink before Blanchimont, I should say. But yeah, no, just went nose first into the barrier. That's very weird.
Well, things like these happen. It's only 11 minutes until the end of the race, so they are already within the 75% that is needed in order to get points here. And weirdly, I think even the Mercedes, the 91 Mercedes, will in the end be within, 14 laps down right now. In 10 minutes, there's 5 more laps.
because when they did reconnect, they were in the pit lane for quite some time, so I'll let you deal with the numbers off.
Yeah, no, I think the
broadcast.
Mercedes will just be out of scoring points today by 3 laps or something.
Fortunate again.
Yeah, terrible luck.
But hey,
Yeah.
last 10 minutes and now go. 2 cars are still in the running, live running. I think Miziak is just repairing the damage right now of the Honda.
Yeah, because that was quite the hefty hit, and it did not look like it was worth driving any longer, sort of with the current damage. But if they gain points, they gain points, and sometimes that's all you need. Yeah. I just wish we had more drivers on the grid today, because even though sort of our first round was not maybe the largest grid, there was still quite a good range of competitors on show. And not to discredit any of our current competitors today and their efforts, but definitely felt a little bit lonely out here. But that is racing. It is summer. Sometimes
Also,
it's...
you did say it earlier with the McLaren. They last time out around Valencia, they just had the pace over everyone else, and I think in the end they had almost the entire grid lapped after the 4 hours of Valencia. I think just 1 car other than them was on the lead lap. So yeah. Maybe some competitors were already discouraged by that immense showing of pace that they had first time round.
Yeah, sometimes that does happen, but it doesn't mean to show that your own efforts are in vain. It's definitely understandable from, like, an enthusiasm perspective, because I know that I've gone into my own races where I've been like, I don't feel confident because I am slow. I know some people are going to be looking at me going, shut up, no you're not. I'd always argue with them, but that's besides the point. But it's one of those things, you're always going to compare yourself to your nearest competitor, and it's definitely understandable when perhaps you look at sort of practice or previous events and you decide, is this really worth the effort?
Yeah, that's something that people need to learn not to do at all, because we had multiple people not running races that should be for fun, like is the Meata League, the VTuber Meata League that we have, because they just didn't have a pace that P1 guy or person had, and we had people leaving because of that. So yeah, I know it's sometimes hard to learn that, but that is the first thing that I always tell myself is the expectation for the league. And sometimes even for, like, let's say the Premier Track EU GT3 league, my was just okay, get points before. So the expectations aren't needed. You can't have the expectation of winning everything every time. Sometimes when you are in, let's say, we have not the multi-class, but we have the classes like AM, Silver, and Pro. If you are like dropped down to lower class, then you think you should be. Of course, you will be like, oh yeah, I need to win everything. But when you are where you should be, you should set up, the correct stuff for you to not get discouraged that you are not winning every single time. Because there is always gonna be faster people than you. It doesn't matter.
I think that mostly comes from people who are just used to single-player games previously, where obviously you can set the AI to whatever challenge you want, and well, most of the people set it to a challenge where they win everything. So getting into multiplayer with having only that as an experience, I understand how that can set a bit of a not very favorable mentality when going into multiplayer for the first time.
Definitely. I'll say it's definitely a knock to confidence at first, but it's also, I guess it's kind of just being realistic with what you want to gain out of this. Like, the primary reason I think we all do this virtually, both, and also those that are fortunate enough to do it in the real world, is that it's enjoyable. We wouldn't do this stuff if we didn't find it enjoyable to some degree, be it for a litany of reasons. Like, maybe the 69 car, yeah, they've run away with it, but maybe they enjoy sort of the perspective like, oh, we are pushing for consistency to work to show that we can be consistently fast, work on being consistently good, maybe not having raw pace, although to be fair to them, they've shown that as well. It's sort of being realistic with, like Greg was saying, it's being realistic with your expectations. And depending on what you define as fun should ultimately be the primary thing. I'm probably going to get some slack from Stick for that one, for saying fun and sim racing by some people. You know what people are like, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names or throw anybody under the bus, but fun is almost like a danger word in the sim racing community, but ultimately this is why we do this stuff.
To be fair,
often you can get to the real thing.
Oftentimes it only feels like a very, very masochistic kind of fun.
Yes, it's certainly one of those where there's a lot of trials and tribulations on the path to victory.
Exactly, like doing 24 hours of Nords.
What do you mean? Like, I can't say nothing on the Nords 24. I did it. This year was the first time I've done it, and I happened to be in a team that won. And I still didn't think I drove that well.
For us, it was we did our first stint with Zun, and then we went for V-Track. We come back to an exploded engine and mental suspension.
Oh god.
Yeah. And they told us after that the engine actually exploded twice as well.
Twice.
Twice,
How many
indeed.
Spara engines did your team have?
I think we used 3, I think, at that point.
Yeah. Just a full 89, just like a full hour and a half of engine swaps, just for the sake of it.
Yeah, it's an Elantra. We just went into the parking lot and just stole an Elantra engine.
It's funny. It's funny when you talk about exploded engines. I've also exploded an engine in endurance race this year.
No.
Oh dear.
Let's say that chicken was always sort of worth it to realize.
Oh yeah, the LMP2.
Majors 24 was funny. I was the only person left on my team because all my teammates were North American time best. So I go make lunch just to realize I still had the engine on. I didn't know how to turn it off. The engine had exploded, so I was making lunch
Dear.
just to come back, just to see memes about the car being dead and pictures
On fire.
Pictures of the car on fire with chicken.
Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear. The final 2 minutes, as the number 91 driver has disconnected from the server after their unfortunate disqualification, but like you said, it was known, it was not unexpected. But just winding down the final few minutes now, should be what, roughly 2 laps to go? Roughly 2 minute lap time with 1 minute 50 as we have our overall leader going through Stefan Belofes. Wait, no, not Stefan Belofes, what am I about? I'm confusing corners here. God damn it. If I had a working brain, I'd be dangerous, and this is with medication. This is why I no longer wish to do stewarding.
No.
In any
I
form.
always had fun stewarding.
As you mentioned, Stefan Dolph, I don't know if we could ever host like a Group C
Leaders on
Oh.
every hour race.
Oh.
Group C cars.
And there we are. Leader is on the final lap. White flag. Not sponsored by Credit One Bank, because I hate that that's stuck in my head. Thank you for that, NASCAR.
It is sponsored by Julian Strasser.
Yes.
Sponsored by tracc.eu.
tracc.eu, your base community for racing.
In
That is
association with us.
And
That
no
is
capital T's, please.
You say capital T, then you may be mistaken us for others.
Yeah, I said no capital T, please.
You're riding on board with Christian's
Yeah, I've been struggling the whole series to say the names. I'm bad with names.
Christus Snottens.
Yes.
in the Symphony SP.
Yeah.
I don't know why I confused curve of Paul Frere for Stefan Bellarfest. That's a completely different circuit. I am such a lemming.
I mean, you
Such
say
a
that.
lemming.
I've also mistaken corner names multiple times. Different tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good mistake. Corner names, not the corners itself.
I don't know. I've done both.
Like when I.
Wrong name than crash, you know. It's. But at least if you don't crash,
You
you're not gonna
don't
name
need to
it.
call me out like that, Jordan.
Like I'm going through like I'm going through north and most of the turns look the same, so I need to like hope that it's the right one.
I don't.
Nürburgring Nord's like is just a vibe. I learn it sort of like I vibe through it, but almost like section by section.
I know how to drive it. I just don't remember the corner names.
Oh yeah,
You
because
don't
there
need
is
to
like
know
170 of them.
176.
As long as you know the carousel and bravery corner, everything is fine.
Yeah.
I
And
know
the Red
how
Bull
to
3
drive
and the Red Bull 3 as well. Can't
Right,
forget
as we-
to wave to that.
Overall leader today coming through Blanchimont towards another dominant performance today, clearly showing between the two drivers that they definitely want to show off. Tracc.eu in the SRO Esports qualifiers, coming through the bus stop, coming across the start-finish line. Number 69, Blue Ball Racing McLaren, driven by Christus Nottins and also, I forget their teammate now, I'm such a lemming. Oh, there's a little bit of a bonk as part of their post-race celebrations.
That's gonna cost money to McLaren.
I probably
Well, I'm
would
not-
recommend doing that still in the racing line as there's people driving.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a good delta to the nearest car behind, which is the number 2 BMW Z4? It's M4. Goodness me.
Wrong one.
My brain-
Is that?
No, I'm thinking of completely the wrong car.
That's,
Maybe I'm not going to do the next.
That is, as a BMW person, I think you would be the one out of all three of us, well, all four of us, I should say, to get that right.
Yeah,
I
I
think
just.
you're two generations behind. The GT.
What's different? What's different there? As we have the number 2 Project Vapor BMW coming across the line in P2 today. Smaller than the expected grid, but they managed to keep their pace up. Considers enough for a good finish, and going through onto the final sector now, through Stavolo into Paul Frere, is the number 74 Honda NSX. I'm probably getting the name wrong, so they're using, I think, a default livery on my end. Just apology.
The writer
Honda
engineering.
Racing.
The Writer Engineering team, yes, forgive me. Through Blanchimont, making up the third and final finish here today. Fortunate we had a smaller grid, but still a good performance by them.
Yeah, and
So-
the racing on the start was really fun anyway, so.
And as the head steward, I am pleased to announce that we don't have any penalties today, which means these basically was all counted together as Blue Balls Racing taking the championship win with 50 points. And I do believe Writer Engineering is now second.
How much
Actually,
is for second place?
Let's see. Project Vapor has a total of 33
13.
points,
Okay.
and Writer Engineering has 32 points because 2/3.
Oh,
Okay,
very
so
close by the end in terms
yeah,
of the championship.
it seems like the championship looks like this. The Blue Ball Racing has won it with 50 points. Project Vapor has gotten second place. Yeah, second place with 33 points, and Writer Engineering third place with 32 points. Wow, that was that was closer than anticipated.
Yeah, admittedly, I was not smart enough to look over the championship points for this event. I didn't realise it was as close as that, to be fair. But no, grid size and sign-ups aside, congratulations to everyone that partook. Even if maybe you weren't showing peak performance, you weren't the clear class leader, you've all done well enough to participate in this event. Just, even having the drive to show up and say, I think I can do this, it should be celebrated in of itself. Confident enough in your own abilities.
and that
Even-
people didn't just run away after they saw the grid size as well.
Yeah. But no.
Because
Anything
that's
further?
what happens a lot of time. It's like, oh, there is not enough people, so I'm not gonna sign in, and then like 20 people will say the same thing, and then of course we have a grid of 5.
There is a good way to circumvent that is by participating to bring back the participation.
Yeah.
It is
Perhaps. But no, I believe, unless I have not received any messages from any of our drivers or today, if they're willing to do any
Let's just
interviews.
wrap it up.
Anybody else? Well then. Thank you everyone for coming and watching today. This has been the second round of the SRO Esports Qualifier organised by tracc.eu in association with SimGrid and Stefan Rattel organisation. Julian, do you have any idea when the next big part of this will be taking place, or is that to be confirmed?
That is to be confirmed. I can quickly check the information that I got. I don't think, however, that we have any dates on it. No, it's just that the grand final will be a team event, and the 2 top finishers of this qualifier will be representing tracc.eu in this grand final.
Yeah,
Excellent
good.
stuff here.
Yeah, so good luck to both of those teams. Represent us well.
Again, thank you very much for joining us today. I believe